It's been a minute.
Well, then we'll see the.
It says we're live. We'll find out.
Yeah, I'll get the little notification on my phone at some point.
The easiest way to make a podcast. Let's see here. I'm trying.
Yeah, we're live on YouTube.
I'm checking through Restream to see what the scoop is here.
No, we're on YouTube. I got the notification.
Shit, you know what?
Yeah.
I didn't set this stuff. I'm gonna do this while we get started.
What he said.
The title, or we did the title on Twitch, but the category I think is wrong.
Fair enough.
I think. It might not be because the last thing we did on here was.
Hopefully it saves previous settings.
Yeah.
This is already off to a rocky start. It's been a while.
It has been a minute.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, sort of.
Yeah.
I've lost my mind just watching all this stuff go down over the last couple.
Okay. Yeah,
Not too bad.
This is, No, this is the dark times. This is the darkest timeline, for sure.
It is an insane timeline, and there's a lot of reasons that I have for that. Why does it open it on here now? This is new. It's cool, but it's new. It's very cool. Yeah, we are in chatting, and we are in English. So,
okay, excellent.
So we're good.
Excellent.
We're fine.
Oh, man.
We're just gonna...
See, we have to have like a hook in the beginning of an episode because now when people watch the episode, they're going to catch us, fumbling with technical difficulties for the first couple minutes and then tune out right away.
I just wanted people to know how much I respect Joe Biden, and by mimicking,
people just signed off right now.
by mimicking his, I know,
they're like, oh god,
his streaming capabilities and why I love it so much.
Yeah, no, did you catch that Facebook live stream that he tried?
I did.
He did it for like 5 minutes and then walked off.
I caught the highlight reel, which our short attention span in the country these days. I caught the highlight, which is what's important.
Oh man,
so it's crazy, man.
Yeah, no, let's get into it, man.
So we've been gone for a minute. So just for some clarification here, we went on a brief hiatus, probably unplanned. Various things went down.
Yeah,
and it's whatever. But we're back.
And I don't want to
sort of
oversell our importance, but
yeah.
we were streaming for a while, and Bernie ended up winning the first 3 contests, and then we stopped streaming, and everything went to shit. So I think that I'm not trying to say we're solely responsible for Bernie's success, but I think that there's a small percentage there.
We're doing our part, and that's what's important.
Every time someone says that, I always think of Starship Troopers. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. You can do your part, or whatever.
And the kids are like stomping on the cockroaches.
Yeah.
I'm doing my part.
Yeah. That movie's super underrated. No, it's not. People love that movie.
Yeah, people love it for the wrong reasons, though.
They do.
Like, they don't understand that it's supposed to be satire of, like,
everything.
A fascist dystopia.
Right. I hope
speaking of fascist dystopias, how about the elections, man?
Oh, dude. Okay, so let's see here. I have a lot of topics to get into, and let me go to my list here. And the whole thing is nutty. So let's see. Let's start with kind of like a recap of the primaries and where we've been since the first contests and where everything was going into the new year. So like when we entered the new year, because that's when it really started getting crazy. Mm-hmm. I think the last big event we were talking about was them holding the impeachment trial.
Yeah, which went about the way that I had anticipated.
Now,
the way everyone, who put any sort of thought into it realized that it would just be dismissed in the Senate anyway.
Just be a shit show.
And then Trump's approval ratings have actually went up since the impeachment.
So there is a thing, and I don't know if I brought this up or not, and it was a conspiracy theory that somebody told me that I don't remember if I brought it up or not, but basically that the reason that the impeachment trial was held to when it was to keep Bernie and Warren out of Iowa. Did I tell you that?
No, but I mean,
okay.
I don't know if that's the case, but
there's no proof.
Nothing would surprise me.
Disclaimer, no proof, but I'm kind of bringing this up because it's going to play into what we're talking about later. So the idea was that they held off the impeachment trial to the week that they did because that was the build-up week to the Iowa caucus. Mm-hmm. And the rule, the Republicans don't have to follow it, but the rule was all sitting senators have to be present for the impeachment trial. And the impeachment trial took up the entire week where they should have been campaigning for the caucus. So that left Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg free reign to campaign all over Iowa.
Yeah, and Iowa, we missed that. I wanted to get back to streaming during Iowa because that was just a shit show.
It was a nightmare. And a lot of, I know it's old news at this point, but I still think it's worth getting back into because there were some things about Iowa that a lot of people may have missed. Let's start with the app that they used for that.
The app that was owned by the husband of a Pete Buttigieg supporter
of a Clinton aide.
Well, no, Pete Buttigieg had some serious ties to it too.
He did. He donated 100 and some odd thousand, 30 or 50, something like that. And he donated a bunch of money, and actually Biden's campaign did too. But it actually goes kind of a little deeper because the parent company of Shady Inc. That's who designed. Was it Shadow?
Shadow.
I thought it was Shady.
No, Shadow.
Whatever.
the whole thing was shady, but the company itself was called Shadow.
Dark spots. No, their parent company through like when you kind of follow it, I heard is Gatehouse Media, which owns all the major newspapers in the country.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just like, why is this even part? Nobody was clamoring for an app, and also an app that just counts things is not that difficult to program.
No, Bernie's camp had their own app which is where they found the discrepancies, which didn't really affect the outcome. But the fact is that there have been major discrepancies.
So during this time, though, I was getting a whole lot of people who were comparing like Bernie supporters to Trump supporters about how they were talking about how everything was rigged and this and this and that, and I feel like that is such an unfair assessment because if it was just incompetence, like just purely gross incompetence, then we would see everybody was being affected by it. But when every technical issue affects a single candidate only, that's when I start to get a little bit suspicious. You know? And Pete Buttigieg, if you remember our very first stream, you said you liked that son of a bitch.
I did. And he had, from the things that he started before the race really got intense, he's one of my biggest letdowns because he really seemed like he was going to be like the new star. Like, this is what we are going for. Stands for the same things, but then just didn't. Fizzled out. And
it's funny, too, because Pete Buttigieg in college wrote like a really long essay praising Bernie Sanders. And just completely you can see the effects of what like the corrupting influence of politics does because he 100%. Became the most establishment candidate.
100%. He sold out hardcore. And I hate to say it, like, it's one of my biggest disappointments in the race. Like, when he first started, because like way back when I said, I met him in person, heard his speeches before he launched his campaign, like he like had the right stuff. Like he could have put himself at the forefront and then didn't.
Yeah.
And this idea that like, I guess maybe you could argue like he wanted to appease the middle ground. I don't know.
No,
because seemed like a hardcore sellout.
Throw a bone to the progressive wing of the party at all. Yeah. He was very much aligned with the establishment.
It was kind
Democrats.
Of interesting to watch his slow decline in ideas from where his policies started to where they ended up, because you can kind of track it before they really put out any hard like copies. So that's a big disappointment for me.
Yeah. So like we can talk about the way that this primary has gone so far, and that originally we were looking at Joe Biden as the villain. He was going to be the one that we had to take out. Then he flopped in Iowa, flopped in New Hampshire, flopped in Nevada, and we were like, okay, he's done. A new challenger emerges, and it looked like Pete Buttigieg for a second. And then Mike Bloomberg enters the race, and then we think, oh no, this guy is the big boss because he's got so much money that he had essentially bought his way into third place.
Yeah,
he had bought rule changes to the debate stage.
Correct.
So it was like, okay, Bloomberg is going to be the big boss. But little did we know that it would come full circle back to Biden.
So there was something about Bloomberg, right? So he entered the race, and pretty much universally everybody was like, why is this guy in the Democratic Party? Let's start there.
That was the unity that I want to see from the Democrat Party. It was just everybody on their bully shit.
I'm gonna add that to the list.
To Bloomberg, man, in that debate, everybody like tag teamed against Bloomberg, and it was beautiful. So my thought is
my issue with Bloomberg, well, I have many issues with Michael Bloomberg, but number one is like, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine about this because they were still kind of undecided, and they still are, no matter what I throw at them. But when Bloomberg was in, it was kind of like one of those things like, he seems like he's well-intended, and it's like, no. Oof. And I was like, you can't believe the ads. I was like, Michael Bloomberg is a Trump-level racist.
Yeah. No.
Like, it's actually worse because he's not overt about it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, no, but he actually has a concrete record of being just the worst.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is that, like, I'm never going to vote for Trump. Like, I'm not. If it were Trump and Bloomberg, I honestly think that Bloomberg is Trump, but effective. I think that it would have been worse. There's an interview he was doing where they had asked him about, committing war crimes and if that was acceptable. Like, if it was acceptable for, like, Israel to bomb, schools with children in them. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, well, what about, like, maybe a proportionate response? It's like, no, if they're Hamas, we're going to bomb them. Like, we will bomb sleeping children. And then they're like, well, what about, like, the Geneva Convention? And he's like, I don't care.
Yeah, what about
and it was like, this guy is, like, an actual, like, sociopathic monster.
Yeah, like,
see, Trump is evil in that he is just wholly uncurious. He was like a spoiled child his whole life who had never wanted for anything,
right?
And was just selfish and short-sighted and stupid. Bloomberg is like a cold, calculating, sociopathic kind of evil, where I feel like, because the thing is, if he became president, he would have a D next to his name, so he would already have the Democrats on his side, but all of his policy positions would be so hard right that he would actually have some crossover appeal with Republicans, and he could probably actually get things done, but bad things.
Yeah, not the things that you would think, which really, I think that really kind of, so there's that. So when did he drop out? After Super Tuesday, right? That's week 4 of the fourth contest of the primaries.
I think he dropped on Super Tuesday, or
maybe even the day after.
Was it the day after?
I believe so, because he spent $500 million to win
American Samoa. Yeah, good job. Good job, Bloomberg.
The thing about it is, though, this is where it kind of gets a little wacky. This is where you kind of start seeing a lot of these things, because I firmly believe they wanted him to run on purpose, the establishment, because he set up this giant network, right, of ground people, threw his money in. He's got offices everywhere, and then endorses Joe Biden. Like, so by doing so, he has a giant giant group of people on the ground who are now effectively campaigning for Joe.
See, I don't know if I think that he did want to be president. And I think that the Democratic establishment wanted him to run because, let's be honest, Joe Biden is not a strong candidate.
No.
And they were looking for an alternative.
Not at all.
And so they were thinking maybe it'll be Bloomberg. And Bloomberg went on, and then all of his, dirty laundry comes to the forefront, because honestly, I didn't know a thing about Bloomberg. Like, I've never lived in New York, been to New York.
I knew a little bit. I do believe he lost to Rudy Giuliani. Like, that was either he retired or he lost to him. That's kind of what he got out of him. And then
I
could be wrong.
And then he runs for president, and you learn about his history.
Yeah.
And just what a monster this guy was. Like, how sexist he is, how rapey he is, how racist he is with his stop and frisk. And this sounds insane, so I don't know if it's correct, but I think it was they harassed 1,000 people a day.
Yeah, stop and frisk was an open policy that basically said anybody that you suspect in, quote, crime-riddled areas, you can stop and detain them and search them without cause.
Yeah, and I want to say, because I remember being shocked when I had read it, that I think it was 1,000 people a day.
It was a lot.
Were getting harassed.
And when questioned about it, somebody brought it to his attention on, like, live news coverage, back when journalism had integrity. And they're like, how do you feel about this, disproportionately affecting minority communities? And his, like, reply was something like, well, we go where the crime is.
Yeah.
like that's your answer.
So I think that Bloomberg went in fully intending on competing, and then was like, oh shit, like, I didn't think everyone was going to dig up everything on me. I got to get out of here.
Why wouldn't they?
I got to get out of here before like people like burn me at the stake for being a literal monster.
Yeah, so he's, and he claims that he's going to throw his money behind the supporter, behind the nominee. But I mean, it's pretty clear that they want it to be Joe Biden.
Yeah, but was there ever a better argument that maybe the super wealthy in this country have a little bit too much money? Was there ever a better argument for that than Bloomberg dropping $500 million on a campaign, and it doesn't affect him?
No,
he's got $60 billion.
He makes that back in interest.
He doesn't even feel it.
Yeah.
So he was just able to just like,
I'm
just gonna run for president, guys. I'm gonna drop.
He raises his advert rates on Bloomberg News by 10 cents, and he makes it back in a year.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, and I was trying to tell somebody this too. They're like, how could somebody spend that much money? I said, the amount of money Michael Bloomberg has is literally incomprehensible. Like, it is so much money that you can't even begin to think about what it is, like what you could do with that kind of money.
Yeah.
Like it's actually, I'm going to share this story because it's a good story. I got into a conversation with somebody the other day. They're relatively uninformed. They don't really understand how income inequality affects things. And I was telling them, like, because he had said his history teacher, they were talking about tax cuts and said they're a good thing. They should always give tax cuts to corporations and this and that because it trickles down, the standard fare. And I was like, oh, no. And I said, let me put it to you like this. I said, let's role play. I said, you're a CEO of a business, and I just gave you $10 billion back for nothing. What are you going to do with that money? And he's like, oh, well, I'm going to put it back into the company. I said, there you go. I said, that's why it doesn't work. Because I said, when have you ever seen a business sit around and say, I have all this extra money?
Yeah, maybe
I should hire some people. No, never.
Like, I'm just going to pocket it.
Yeah.
Essentially. Well, there's a principle in economics called the velocity of money, in which you give a working class person $10. And he'll use that $10 to buy a cab. Now that cab driver's got $10, and he used that $10 to go see a movie. Now the movie theater's got $10, and then they use that $10 to buy a sandwich. And with that $10, you have created $40 of economic value. Whereas if you give that $10 to a billionaire, he's just gonna throw it in his bank,
100%.
and it's gonna sit there.
They like, isn't that what GDP effectively is? Is the measurement of every transaction that occurs within your borders, type deal. Yeah. So yeah, in by that own definition, I mean GDP is best served when the lower class has more in their pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, but
like,
that's some complex shit that we probably shouldn't get into.
That's the thing about a lot of leftist arguments is that they come from a place of like morality, which is a good place. Like, it's definitely an important place. I think
that's where you'd want all your arguments to come from.
Luckily, however, there are economic arguments for leftist policies, and that's one of them. When you give more money to the working class, they spend that money. When the working class is deeply in debt, that money just goes back to paying off interest rates to the banks, and instead they're not out there buying houses, buying cars, buying TVs. They're instead paying back massive amounts of debt and not stimulating the economy.
Yeah, or investment. Yeah. And I've said in the past, and I don't know if this still rings true because, a lot of, I'll be the first to admit that I'll make statements and roll with them for a little bit. And then,
and then someone's like, that's not true.
Yeah. Pete Buttigieg is going to be the progressive leader of the future. Yep. Waffled that one. I lost my damn train of thought. Shit. Oh, yeah. No, I used to say back in the day, I said our economy is propped up by fake dollars. And this still might be true. It's kind of and it's very simplified, but it is that argument. It is that their working class / quote middle class, is harboring so much debt that they're actually not accruing wealth for themselves because it's all boggled down in debt. So it's fake dollars that are propping up the economy.
Yeah. Well, if you really want to get into it, money is fake.
That's
all of this is fake. We made it up. We made it up. Like, everything is made up. This idea of the deficit, this idea of national debt, it's all made up. Like, that's point blank bottom line. Is that they can.
Have you noticed
most of the money we owe ourselves, and we could stop paying it at any point, and nothing would happen.
I asked somebody.
Look at the $1.5 trillion that were just injected. Yeah, that were just injected in the economy. They just out of thin air. Here you go.
Yeah.
Boom. And then it raised the economy for 30 minutes, and then it tanked again. It's like, oh, that was a good use of that money.
Just today was the largest drop in American history of the Dow Jones Industrial. 3,000 plus points.
But it's like, who? This is the thing. The economy is tanking, but what's going on? Flight prices are cheaper.
So I have my conspiratorial mind. I have no, houses won't go down. They'll probably inflate because people are trying to recoup their loss. Because right now, I read a thing one time because I've been seeing around the area we buy houses for cash. And somebody told me one time that that's the worst sign you can see for the economy, because when people are starting to liquidate assets fast, it means that a bust is coming. But
it's not just coming; it's here, baby.
Well, and I mean, there were a lot of people too who were saying, this administration has repealed so many of the protections that the Obama administration put in place. Sorry, that's going to be annoying if I let that keep playing in the background. And that there were a lot of people who were like, hey, this is the same scenario we were in prior to 2008. So, take that for what you will. I'm not an economist, but I also don't give much credence to economists either, because
it's somewhat unpredictable a lot of the time.
Because economists' jobs. I seen a video the other day, and I loved this quote: "Economists' job are to make fortune tellers look good." But no, what I think is kind of going on is I think we're kind of seeing another situation with the tax cut. I think we're seeing a lot of companies who are going to use this money, and they're going to buy back into their own companies. And then when the economy reinflates.
But that's what happened. That's what happens under tax cuts is that they create these boom bust cycles, and so when you give a tax cut, immediately the stocks go up. But it becomes a bubble that's just waiting to go back down. And that's one of the fundamental issues with our election system is that you'll get a Republican in, he'll cut taxes, the economy will boom for a second, but everything else will go to shit. He'll get voted out, they'll put a Democrat in, and the economy will collapse under him. And then everyone has such short memories that they go, oh, it's all his fault. And then we get another Republican in.
This is actually a good segue into one of the topics I want to get into. I'm going to look and see where our time is.
We've been going on.
I just want to make sure we don't accidentally forget. We're using a new recording platform for the podcast version, and we are limited. We have to kind of watch where we're at for time on it, because it's limited in what we can do with it. Anywho, not important. So this is a good segue into kind of where we're at as progressives in the Democratic Party.
Sure.
Because you do see this cycle of nonstop up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And it kind of, I'm trying to think how I want to segue this and where I want to start with. So let's start, or should we go back and kind of finish our recap of the primaries?
We can go back to the primaries if we'd like.
Okay, let's finish that too.
We'll talk
so
about
we have
the future
so many
of the
things.
the progressive wing in a little bit.
I want to try to keep this as streamlined as I can.
We had stopped after Biden losing the first three contests.
Yes.
Thinking that he was done. And then what happened? They all the other centrist Democrats coalesced into some fucking Cronenberg abomination, and then all
I think you referred to it as a Voltron-esque.
I had suggested a while back that all of the boring candidates should turn into a Voltron. So
I still remember that. I was thinking about that the other day after it happened, and I was like, God damn it.
That's what they did. That's exactly what they Voltroned.
So we have some unique things. So we got Mayor Pete dumping all of it. You know what's messed up about his, too? All the others kind of seen it coming, but the Mayor Pete camp, like a lot of his advisors came out and said, like, we didn't know, like this just happened. Yeah. So take that for what you will.
And I don't know if there's any evidence to suggest this, but what I've been hearing is that he got a call from Barack Obama and told him that to drop out. And I imagine that Pete's brain just like glitched out when he got the call from Obama. He was like, "Hello, Pete, this is Obama."
Hello, Pete.
And he's like,
I can't do it.
"Hello, Obama. This is Pete Buttigieg," because he's always doing his Buttigieg impression, or Buttigieg is always doing his Obama impression. Yeah. And he just forgot who he was talking to for a second.
Yeah. I had heard that it was actually the Biden campaign that called him and said, I want to, you have a nice cabinet spot waiting for you in some form or way. And
that's what I'm assuming was offered to Klobuchar.
Yep, Klobuchar. I actually think Klobuchar will be Biden's VP pick. We talked about that a little before the stream started.
Yeah, and we were kind of saving this because we were going to get into Elizabeth Warren and just how gullible and naive and how little political instinct she has. Because you know that.
I think.
Okay, we'll get into Elizabeth Warren later.
Yeah,
we'll have a full section.
There will be a full section devoted to her
about her. So then they all coalesced behind Joe Biden, of all people.
Yep. The guy they wrote off.
The guy who
the one-term president.
Yeah.
Listen here, Jack.
Listen here, Jack.
Finger pointing.
Oh, man.
And Mr. Joe, I'm gonna slap you, Biden.
And so now, listen here, fat. And now they're all in for Joe Biden, and that momentum is pulling him out ahead. Now and this is the thing, I'm seeing a lot of defeatism right now. A lot of people are really despondent with this recent.
There are a lot of the people who had switched to Bernie, or I think that's really where you're seeing it from. Is you're seeing a lot of the people outside of the Sanders base, the people this coalition that Bernie apparently doesn't have, as they keep saying.
Well,
but we'll get into that too. But that's where you're kind of seeing it, because you're seeing these these guys who are kind of new to the process. Because there are some interesting stats that I think are worth going over too, talking about the defeatism.
Yeah. But the thing is that don't let the media narrative, get you down.
That's
we're at the halfway mark. All right.
We're not even at the halfway mark.
Bernie won the first quarter. Biden pulled out ahead at halftime, but the game's still going. We still got the back end of this game to come back. So please don't buy into this idea that he can't win, because he's only down by 150 delegates.
I think it's a little less because of California.
Yeah,
I can pull that up real quick.
Yeah, and we can bring that up too. When people say that the election is rigged, they don't literally mean that votes are being switched around, or like they're actively altering the results. Bernie is getting less votes. That is indisputable.
Correct.
But we have to look at why that's happening. And there was, a study that showed that after Bernie wins a state, there's 8 times more negative coverage of that than when Biden does. And now that Biden's got momentum, everyone is constantly talking about how we got to fall in line behind Biden. We got to fall in line behind Biden.
Yeah,
Nobody was saying that when Bernie was the front runner.
Vote blue. No matter who wasn't a thing.
It's a farce. It is just a tool that they are using.
And unfortunately, too, talking about rigged, you're right. It's not deliberately rigged, but there are things happening.
No, it is deliberately rigged, but it's not. They're not changing. It's not in the way
that. I'm sorry. I should clarify that.
It is very deliberate. Strangely enough, the states that Bernie wins are always the last ones to report the results. Weird how that works.
Michigan and several states are reporting in areas with high youth turnout, which we'll talk about that segment too, because that's been significantly misreported.
And they're having 3-hour lines to wait in.
In Michigan, there was a 7-hour wait in many precincts for people to vote.
Yeah.
Going into that, we got Arizona coming up. There's a clip on Twitch circulating right now of the election coordinator who literally can't take. They closed 150 polling stations in minority communities.
Yeah.
And that's not a coincidence. And there's voter suppression happening on both sides now.
Yeah, they are doing everything in their power to stop Bernie and to stop his movement. And this comes from Republican establishment. This comes from the Democratic establishment, because that's the thing. Why isn't like Election Day a holiday?
All right, let's take a quick break real quick while we get this next segment set up real fast.
Sure.
Be right back. Sorry, guys. I know this is silly, but this is
we're trying out our new system.
Yeah.
We're back. Pulling a Biden.
Not really. The thing is the stream doesn't end. It's just the audio recording.
Yeah.
So we look goofy for about 20 seconds, and
that's all it takes for somebody to switch off.
That is all it takes. So
yeah, but we're talking about it's because
I messed it up.
But that is that is designed as well, though.
Yeah, it is designed
because it disproportionately benefits old people voting, and old people get all of their media filtered through the mainstream media outlets, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, which is why boomers ruin every single election, whether it's the general, whether it's the Democratic primary. They love to vote. Yes, they love it.
Primaries are historically smaller turnout. Like a lot of people, I think, and I want to dig into the numbers too, because a lot of people talk about like Obama's youth numbers versus Bernie's, and like the people that turn out for primaries are just, it's just a smaller segment than generals, because most people, when they hear about the election, they don't think about the primary, they think about who's up in November. But then I had to explain to my friend. Actually, I converted somebody, not converted, but I was talking to somebody about voting in the primary here, and they're like, well, I don't want to because my vote doesn't matter. And I was like, no, it does, because every vote counts for a delegate.
In fact, the primary is probably where your vote matters most.
And I said, and then they're like, and I explained the process to them, and they're like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to vote. But then they, of course, followed up. If Biden wins, won't vote for him in the primary. And I said, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
No problem there. So, I mean, these things keep happening. A lot of these states keep closing polling stations. Texas was a big one. Michigan, big reports. I've heard Illinois has early voting. You can vote from Friday or the week before all the way in. And I've heard of long lines in Illinois polling stations. Don't know what the scoop is on that. I just know I've heard it.
Yeah. But the thing is that young people,
not a journalist yet,
and this is where Bernie dominates. Over 70% of the young vote goes to Bernie Sanders in every state, but only about 13% of the total votes are young people.
Yes.
That's the problem, and the reason is that a lot of us are in sort of these volatile financial situations where we can't take a day off of work to go wait in line for 7 hours.
And different primaries are different goofy days. And actually, Saturdays are when your younger people are more likely to be working. If you really stop and think about it. So, it keeps people away from the polls.
But, if you're retired and all you do is sit around and watch the news all day and you think that voting is your civil duty and I'm going to go vote even though I don't know a thing about anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go vote because I have to vote, because I'm supposed to vote. And you have these uninformed masses going in and doing these huge turnouts for Joe Biden when I can't think of a single compelling reason. I can't think of a single compelling reason to vote for Joe Biden. He has been on the wrong side of every single issue.
So let's start there then. We can go into that because I like that, because I think we got a good segment on voting, and we're in the second quarter of our podcast. So let's talk about Joe Biden and what he is in the Democratic Party. And a lot of people will be like, why are you trying to split the party? This isn't about that. This actually ties into multiple things. So I want to go back to 2018 in the midterms. The Democratic Party was able to retake the majority of the House of Representatives for the first time since 2010. Six election cycles in a presidential election that they lost. So, I mean, they got wiped out. And let's look into that. So, and this is why I don't understand the Biden pick. I could get, as an establishment, I would understand why they'd pick anybody other than Biden.
I probably would have gone behind. Well, I understand why they picked Biden. I understand, because I was gonna say Pete Buttigieg, just because he is younger, he is more dynamic, he is.
That's why I thought they'd pick.
Definitely a more palatable choice. Yeah. Because he is he's not senile, so that's a huge one. But
so many things.
But I understand he's also the mayor of a small town.
Yeah.
That he did really poorly with.
That's fair.
So I can get why they picked Joe Biden, because this is a guy who has the veneer of a president, though.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's been in politics his whole life. This is a guy, he was Obama's VP, and there was, he seemed like a decent fellow. But now what's coming to light is his record on everything, and he is wrong about everything. About everything.
And and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know a whole lot about Joe Biden back when Obama picked him.
So Obama picked Joe Biden because Obama ran on this idea of hope and change, and it got the establishment scared.
Fairly progressive.
He ran as a progressive.
Yeah.
And then he picked Joe Biden as kind of a wink to the establishment, like, no, don't worry, guys, I'm still your guy.
Yeah.
Because can we talk honestly about the Obama presidency? I know that he has huge sway of the Democratic Party, and I know that he's widely popular. But can we talk about it objectively for what it was, which was ultimately a disappointment?
I think this is how I kind of view it, and this is where you can see the corruption, right? So Obama, much like Donald Trump, had a majority in both the House and the Senate for 2 years, 2009, 2010. Mm-hmm. Affordable Care Act is his signature policy, right? In the Affordable Care Act was a single-payer option. This is what Joe Biden is claiming that he wants to do, which is a mistake. Shouldn't do it. The only other option right now is Medicare for All. We can get into that later, too.
Yeah.
But so that was the whole thing. Now, both sides took a ton of money from insurance companies to remove that segment. Why? So this actually goes into after Joe Biden's Super Tuesday win. Mm-hmm. It's not a coincidence that insurance stocks rose in value $50 billion.
Yeah,
like that doesn't happen when you're
Yeah, if they think you're an actual threat to their power, the stocks would not have jumped after your election.
Because the stock market is a bet on the future. It is a bet that your company will perform objectively well. So there's that. So that's how you kind of start to see where that comes in. On top of that, so another one too that I was always disappointed in Obama with, and I liked Obama. He just kind of let me down hardcore as a progressive because he made so many unnecessary concessions to the right.
Yeah.
And a big one that affects me because being first generation American is record number deportations. And just like all these little things that kind of got snuck through. And it's like, how did you allow it?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Obama governed very much like a neoliberal. And he had even openly said, I plan on governing like a moderate Republican. Those were his words. He had tried so hard to appease the other side, and they still obstructed him at every single turn.
Yeah, every single way.
And so this idea that Joe Biden thinks that he will magically get Republicans to work with him, like, it's incredibly naive. They won't. They won't
because
but then Joe Biden, what's he going to do? He's going to work with them.
Yep.
He's going
to cater to them. He's going to make concessions that don't need to be made, all in the name of working together. So this comes to another point. Is a lot of people talk about like the Biden electability, right?
Sure.
That he's going to pull all these moderate voters to his side, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to throw a poll number out here, and this is why this argument is stupid. Donald Trump has a 95% support rate in the Republican Party. You are not pulling moderate Republicans to your side.
You're not. And
you're just not. And your swing voters, you're not going to pull either, because the swing voters that voted for him are the people who are tired of the game. Like, this goes into a whole election strategy and why I don't understand why they picked Biden. Because the only logical conclusion is that the Democratic establishment, I'm going to go Jimmy Dore on you here in a minute. The only logical conclusion is the establishment doesn't actually care that Donald Trump is president.
No. They would rather Donald Trump win than Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders wants to change the way campaigns are financed, which is going to affect the way that they get their money.
Yep.
That's why Donald Trump's not going to fundamentally change anything, really. All these people who are never Trumpers, all of this and that. Truth is, they have no problem with his policy positions. They don't like him because he's, boorish and because he can't carry himself professionally.
Yeah.
Their biggest issues with Trump are aesthetic. They're like, I don't like the way that he's rude, and I don't like that he, talks that way, and blah, 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 blah. But they don't care about his policy positions. He's governing very much like any Republican would. The thing about Joe Biden's appeal is that he doesn't have any.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Bernie has so much better of a chance to get non-voters and swing voters to come to his side, because and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is there are people like me. They think that Joe Biden is the compromise candidate. Like, okay, I can't get Bernie Sanders, but I don't want Trump, so I guess I'll settle for Biden. But what they don't understand is Bernie was my compromise candidate already. Bernie is not a radical.
No.
I am a radical. I am over here. Bernie Sanders is here. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both on the right. That's it. Bernie Sanders is my compromise. He is, and his ideas are not these radical, brave concepts. Everything that he's proposing has been tried to great success in other actual brave countries who passed these legislations without knowing what was going to happen, and they all turned out wildly successful. And Bernie just wants to replicate that here. Mm-hmm. They're not crazy policies. Bernie in any other country would be just barely left of center, if that. Yeah. If not a direct centrist.
To put it into perspective and kind of what we're getting at here is if you take the Tories, the conservatives in the UK that successfully pushed Brexit, they are technically more to the left than the right wing of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Like that when you put it into perspective like that, that is kind of where we are.
Yeah, and I've seen Bernie consistently compared to Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is actually a socialist. That's the thing. Bernie is not. Bernie wants a little bit of tweaks to capitalism. He wants social democracy. He wants capitalism with a strong welfare state.
Yeah,
that's what he wants. He is very much an FDR style Democrat.
My favorite is the Rogan quote: "Is why wouldn't you want less losers?" Like that's the solution to all the problems that you claim to have if you're sitting in the moderate wing or to the right. But anywho,
there should be all Bernie is advocating for is a basic standard of living.
Yeah,
like he has said on Twitter that billionaires shouldn't exist. In his tax policy, billionaires still will very much exist.
Yeah,
he has no desire to actually make it so that there are no billionaires. Now, should billionaires exist? In my opinion, no. Bernie's right on that. But he's not trying to get rid of them. He's not trying to fundamentally change capitalism or dismantle capitalism. So these arguments that he's a communist or he's a socialist, they're not true. That's just fear mongering.
This is and this kind of plays into a little bit of criticism I have in the Sanders campaign, and I don't know if this is just bad strategy or what. But like one of the things that before I disowned him, Andrew Yang did really well was repackage social policies and sell them in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Where you're talking about
you don't have to repackage Medicare for all, but like. There are just other things that I feel like they could have said it in a different way that would have that is more understandable.
According to the exit polls, Medicare for All is wildly popular among everybody. Everyone who's voted so far,
hugely.
It is in the 60s, in the 60%, in the 70% people who are supporting Medicare for All. And if we can get back to Joe Biden for a second, Joe Biden literally said he would veto a Medicare for All bill if by some miracle it would get through Congress and got to his desk, he would veto it. So people who support Medicare for All, why are you voting for Joe Biden, who will do everything in his power to prevent that?
Yeah, he's very much the healthcare candidate in the way that he's taking all this insurance money. Like I shouldn't say it like that. That's a bad way to say it.
This idea that Bernie Sanders is a radical when single-payer healthcare exists in every other country. If anything, our current system is the radical one. We're the only ones who aren't doing that.
It exists in even poor countries that don't even like the whole idea is crazy. So like you literally have Bernie, like in the debate, Bernie says, we're winning the ideological debate. All of his policies are polling great, but I don't know if it's misinformation or if it's name recognition or if it's a form of Republican identitarianism where we only care about, because the biggest thing that I've seen thrown against Bernie is he's not a real Democrat. And you know what? I can understand why he remained independent for so long.
Yeah.
Like when you nominate somebody like Joe Biden, who literally is the antithesis, and this is going to go back to where we were in 2018 as a progressive movement, in my opinion, because I've always been politically active. I mean, like I've been tried to be well versed and whatnot. I love it. I like the in and outs, but like I would say Bernie's campaign really like got me into it hardcore.
Yeah.
And this, so in 2018, you have a very much progressive movement really kind of blooming after Bernie's campaign. Like all the people that remained after Bernie side, they ended up trying to run for Congress. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's outside the realm of argument that the progressive movement saved the Democratic Party in 2018.
Agreed.
Because even though a lot of the candidates didn't win, I mean most of them realistically didn't win, the movement and the people in the central wing that capitalized on it, because there was like a big guy, they called him a rising star, I think in Arizona or New Mexico. He endorsed Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And he was a progressive star. So in my mind, the progressive wing really saved the Democratic Party. The fervor that the youth had, and I mean 30 and under, 40 under, that got re-involved because they're like, oh shit, we have a chance. Like we can get this stuff. And then they nominate Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well, like this criticism.
The progressive wing handed the Democratic Party their first win in six years, effectively.
Okay.
And this comes to kind of where we're at as progressives in the Democratic Party, because you got Joe Biden, who stands for nothing that we stand for and won't do any of it. I mean, why would he? What's his incentive?
Look at his record. He voted for the war in Iraq. He voted to leave Roe versus Wade up to the states. He voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. All of these things that the Democratic Party or progressives are supposedly supposed to stand for, he was on the wrong side of. Why would I vote for him?
Because I think, and one of the bigger ones is like, okay, whoever's president is gonna be in charge of a Supreme Court pick. Joe Biden, I think it was Clarence Thomas, who's that was his guy. Like that's who they fought to get in, or he might have lost in that. But I have to do my research on that one. But like, it's like, how do we know he's gonna pick a good judge?
See, that's the thing.
He also didn't fight for their Supreme Court pick. It's like they let it go.
No, so Joe Biden. Like, Donald Trump is bad. Yeah, we all know that.
Sure.
We're not going to spend time talking about it.
No, we don't. This is more about...
But I don't think that Joe Biden is different enough to vote for. He's not. This whole idea that they're, like, people are telling me, fall in line. You're not voting for Joe Biden. You're voting because children are in cages. Well, guess what? They were in cages under Obama.
Yeah.
But that picture that was going viral about a little kid in a cage,
yeah.
They're like, look at what Trump's doing. Look how bad this is. That was taken under Obama, and then there was a lawsuit going on that there was forced labor going on in these detention centers under Obama. This idea that Joe Biden, one, I don't think he even remembers that there are kids in cages. I don't think he cares.
I don't think he cares at all.
I don't think he cares at all, and I don't think he's going to change it. This idea that I'm going to vote against locking children up, I will with Bernie. That's why I'm trying to do it.
So in 2018, you saw a shift in the Democratic Party because, like, our state party here adopted a very progressive platform, and they might be the best group out of all of them because they actually remain neutral, unlike the DNC and all that jazz. And I know because I've been involved in state level politics. But anywho, so you got which and there's a big Latino group, Latino Victory, and they endorsed Joe Biden, and I'm just like, he is literally your worst enemy right now. Because Bernie is the only one who said, I'm going to offer a path. None of the other candidates, not even Warren, her immigration plan wasn't that great at all, in my opinion. I mean, for what I would want. But I
honestly think Julian Castro's was the best. But
yeah, I mean, he's...
but he went full on into Warren. I don't think he's endorsed Biden yet. So
no,
good on you. Good on you, man. He will.
But so where we are here. So we're in 2020. The progressive movement is trying to nominate their president. We have 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 Democratic Socialists in the House of Representatives. No real senators, I don't think, that are progressive. At least what we would consider progressive. So this vote blue no matter who. So this whole idea of falling in line with Joe Biden, right? Okay, so I'm gonna lend some credence to this argument that Joe Biden can get these progressive policies done, because that seems to be the biggest one here. Okay. In 2018, like I said a couple times, the progressive movement saved the Democratic Party. They're the ones that won them the House. I mean, even though our candidates really didn't win. When 2020 rolls around, we'll probably still be in control of the House. And if something good happens, we'll probably have the Senate. That one's up in the air. It might be a 50-50 split. I think that's most likely. Hard to say. Polls don't mean much anymore. They never did. But I bought into a lot of the polls, and it made me disappointed. So anyways, we'll play the prediction game, which is not smart, but we're going to do it anyways. Who's going to be Speaker after 2020 of the House?
I don't know.
Probably Nancy Pelosi.
I don't know. Probably.
Assuming the Republican, I'm playing the assumption game, which is also dangerous. Okay, so I'm doing this on purpose. So let's pretend that Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, and we'll say Joe Biden's president, and we'll say it's a 50-50 Senate split. 50-50 Senate split.
That's already a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah. What incentive is there for the moderate wing to pass, to even let, we're going to go a McConnell situation. What incentive is there for Nancy Pelosi to even bring a Medicare for all bill to the floor?
It wouldn't happen.
It's not going to.
It wouldn't happen.
Do you know why I think they passed all these progressive bills? I think it's because they knew they weren't going to pass the Senate, number one. So there's no political downfall in saying, we actually support your policies, but when push comes to shove, are they actually going to do it? Like, is that a risk you're willing to take if you believe in these policies, whether it's Medicare for all, whether it's campaign finance reform, whether it's anything, any of them, any of it.
You know, cutting our military budget.
Yeah,
any of them. I don't think you could argue, and this is why, because look at the Defense Reauthorization Act that they passed in December. Yeah,
they gave
the one that Warren voted for.
Yes,
huh?
They gave Donald Trump everything he wanted
and more.
They gave him the money to blow up Soleimani. I mean, let's like. This is why I say I don't think the establishment actually cares.
And then what happened when that happened too? Stocks for all of these arms manufacturers also went up.
Yeah, because they had $150 extra billion to buy new bombs and whatever the fuck. I mean, I'm not gonna be here and be like, you know, we need to completely reduce our military. I think they're essential and they do a good job, but the weapons
manufacturing. That's where we disagree.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. But like the weapons manufacturing and shit, like it's like, why are we this is an argument. I have several friends who are military, and I'm generally pro-military, you know, defend the country, all that good shit. Don't need to be imperialists in throwing over every democracy in the world. I don't think the military should be used as a gigantic social program.
I don't think that the military should. I don't think they should have private contracts, period, though.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
And
so let's take that shit out of there. But my thing is,
I would advocate cutting it in half, even more.
And that's fine, because that's still more than the next 10 countries combined. So, like, my thought was always this. It's like, why do we waste all this money with these companies, right? And building all this weird shit we don't need when we are not even giving our dudes on the ground the best shit they can possibly get. Like,
every year the military budget goes up.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't go to the VA.
And that's what I'm talking about.
It doesn't go to pay for soldiers. It doesn't go to any of that.
And I know I've talked about it a little before, like, you know, you've seen the commercials growing up where they're like, this is what our military does, we're liberators and blah 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 blah. And I know that the truth is definitely not that, but like, you would think, like, let's say, because, you know, they didn't send anybody in to stop the genocides.
Yeah, we could get into a whole,
but that's a whole nother
topic about the military, which I would like to do at some point.
We definitely need to do that. We got
because I feel like we might have a little disagreements there.
For sure.
But
might be fun. Probably not.
This idea, though, is that,
but back to Biden.
Back to Biden. Joe Biden is decidedly not a progressive. And this argument that Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat, well, guess what?
Okay.
I guess I'm not either.
So this is what I was getting into. So in 2018, the Democratic Party adopts all this progressive stuff, right? They say, we want healthcare. They adopted it. I mean, it's in their platform. They said, this is what we're going to stand for. They won the thing, and they did it again. So when the moderate wing, by getting Bernie out, like, what happens to the progressive movement? It literally, what they're doing is they're trying to re-win on Donald Trump's unpopularity. And we're not even going to get into Biden's poor election strategy, because I have a lot of thoughts on that too.
And we'll
but my fear here is that basically what's going on, and whether it's intentional or not, I mean, it's half intentional from the establishment side, and the voters are just going along with it. It is literally, to me, an attempt to quell the progressive movement in the United States, because we as a movement have nowhere to go.
And I think that would be effective when you get people excited about politics, when you get somebody who has a champion like Bernie Sanders, who cares about young people, who cares about disenfranchised people, who cares about minorities, and you get them active, and then you just do everything in your power to stop that. You blackpill an entire generation. You blackpill an entire group of millennials and all of Gen Z. Like, they're not going to care about politics anymore. You have lost them.
Bernie, in 2018, let me throw this out there. When the Democratic Party was looking for candidates in these competitive districts, like, the guidelines were literally, you need to stand for something. You have to run on what you're offering. You have to do this and do that. Like, you can't run on like they said, you cannot run an I'm against Trump campaign, you will lose. Like, they literally said that. Like, you can go back to any Democratic podcast, Pod Save America, any of them, and that is what you'll hear. Like, you have to be
Pod
like,
Save America is awful.
Oh, fuck. I stopped listening to them. But
anyway, some new people in the chat. Hey there, how's it going?
I'm sorry, guys.
No, they just hopped in right now.
Oh, okay.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello. We're just chit-chatting a little bit about all this good stuff here. I'm going to let you monitor that.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm going to have to watch the timer.
You're going to... Yeah, that's the thing, is that if you want to talk about pulling swing voters or non-voters or things like that, Joe Biden is not the guy to do it.
No.
The thing is that Trump, this has been, taboo to say. Trump has appeal, dude. Trump has appeal to disenfranchised voters who feel as though the establishment has let them down, and it has.
Yeah.
And it has. So when you have, and this is the thing about Bernie Sanders, a couple of reasons why I believe he has the best opportunity to swing sort of moderate voters, especially in the Rust Belt, is one, he doesn't talk about gun control very much. And a lot of Democrats have attacked him on being weak on guns. But you want to know something? A lot of Republican voters are single issue voters, and guns are their issue. So when you have somebody who kind of is a little bit hands off on touching that topic, that makes him more palatable. Also, he's not a Democrat. You guys level that at him as a criticism, when in actuality, there are people who are like, I'm never going to vote for a Democrat.
Yeah.
Bernie has the appeal of being an independent his whole career. And lastly, as far as trade policies go, Trump won big on attacking the Democrats from the left as far as trade goes.
Yep.
And you know what? You have NAFTA, you have TPP. These are things that Bernie Sanders voted against and Joe Biden voted for. So when you have, we have let down people in the Rust Belt. We have let down people who have manufacturing jobs. We have let them down. People, coal miners in Virginia whose jobs are becoming obsolete.
Yep.
We have left them behind, and we've let them down. And our coalition, and not to be like a class reductionist here, but the only warfare is class warfare. It is. So these guys, these blue collar working guys who maybe won't be all up in identity politics or, not super knowledgeable about trans issues or like pronouns and things like that, just hardworking blue collar people trying to take care of their families. We need to bring them into the Democrat Party and show them, hey, we are the working man's party.
We either are or we aren't. Yeah. There's not an in between, and nominating that guy doesn't do any of that. Like, it's literally to me a 180 of what the party claimed to have stood for. And that's why I'm saying, like, like, do these progressive bills make it to the floor of the House post 2020, no matter who's in there?
So, but yeah, Joe Biden is he's not the guy. And here's the thing. The problem with leftist politics is that they care about people's lives. So we have this harm reduction. No, it's a huge detriment when it comes to politics. You can get a lot more done if you don't give a fuck about people. You can get things done. So the problem is that we're going to have this harm reduction argument, which I don't think is a bad argument, where people are going to say, look, I know that Biden is not your candidate that you wanted, but you have to vote for him to get Trump out of office. So let's looking at healthcare, for example. We have between 30 to 60,000 people dying every year because they can't afford healthcare. Joe Biden's not going to fix that. Now, Donald Trump and the Republicans, they don't give a shit. They don't give a fuck, so they're not going to fix it at all. Joe Biden is not going to fix it to the level that we want, but he might save, 5,000 lives a year. Is it right for us to say that that's not enough?
So that's not enough. I do want to talk about that
because it isn't what I want. But it is. That's to those 5,000 people. That is their life.
Yeah.
So this idea that we are going to have to fall in line with the Democrat Party, I don't think is the worst argument, but it comes down to long term, what is the ramifications of electing somebody like Joe Biden and falling in line and voting for Joe Biden. It proves to them that they can bully you, that they can do what they want. They don't care because you have nowhere else to go. Progressives have nowhere else to go.
We don't.
We have to vote Democrat. And if we do it, if we fall in line the way that they want us to, they'll know that they can keep doing that.
100%. Which is exactly why I kind of brought it up here in about 25 seconds. We'll have to take a quick small break, but And that's exactly why I brought it up, because what happens to the progressive movement after, even if Joe wins or loses, doesn't matter. Like, it's, if Joe loses, almost not voting for Biden as a progressive is almost the best option. Like, because I don't have any kind of backup from anybody else in the moderate wing that these policies will still exist after post Biden.
Yeah.
All right. Time out.
We are experiencing some technical difficulties.
It's not really technical.
It's not really technical difficulty. We're doing it intentionally
we're using a new audio recording software for this.
But it only does 30 minutes at a time for some reason.
Yeah.
Are we back on?
Yep, we're back.
Sweet. Okay. So, what happens to progressives after Joe Biden's nomination? But let's not. Yeah, let's remind everybody it's not over. Joe Biden is not. Ideally, he's not going to be the candidate. All right.
This is part of a bigger overall arcing argument in what the Democratic Party stands for and what they claim to versus what it actually is. So the whole point here. So let's go into Biden. Let's play. This is why. I mean, in any other election year, Bernie would be a slam dunk candidate. You know why? He motivates people to come out. And there's been this report going around that the youth isn't turning out for him. That is actually false. His turnout is actually higher than it was in 2016, and that number that they throw around, the 13 to 15%, that's the total amount of votes that he got.
Yeah.
So the numbers are actually higher, like 6 to 8 to 9% higher versus his 2016 numbers versus now. So take that for what you will. At this point in time, Bernie was down like some 300 delegates. Like now we're only like 150.
Yeah, it's a tighter race than it was with Hillary.
It is, absolutely. And he needs to, I do want to say this, I want him to stay all the way to the convention.
Same.
Because I want the delegates to vote, and I want people need to understand, like, that's where the corruption comes from. Like, you see it right in front of you.
So, but the thing is that if Joe Biden is the nominee, and honestly, this coronavirus kind of throws a wrench in a lot of political predictions because it is causing the stock markets to go down.
Yeah.
And historically, presidents haven't had a good chance getting reelected in the middle of a recession. That might actually affect Donald Trump, being that was one of his only sort of positives to his presidency, that the stock market was doing well. Which again, anyone listening, that is a poor argument because the stocks are not reflective of the way average Americans are doing. Yep. Something only like 51% of Americans own stocks at all.
Yeah.
And that's including 401ks.
Wow.
Where
that's a new stat
in actuality, the top 1% owns 90% of stocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think I brought it up on this podcast before that like 20 people sit on like 15 major companies' board of directors.
Yeah.
So it's like you just see the things, and that's one thing they did bring that up in the debate on Sunday where then they asked, they're like, what would you do for the economic crisis? And I wasn't a big fan of Bernie's answer, but he did it. I mean, he answered correctly, I guess, but it was kind of like they framed it in a way that he really didn't have a way to answer it. They did him dirty, but we don't have to get into that.
Here's going to be sort of, I guess, a surprising opinion coming from me, being that I've been a Bernie guy for a while now.
Yeah.
Even go back to our first streams, he was always my pick.
Number one. Yep.
He was always my number one. If Bernie can't beat Biden, probably the weakest candidate we've seen so far, then he doesn't deserve to win, honestly. Because here's the thing: is that Bernie is going around and he is not going for the jugular. He's not attacking Joe Biden on the things that he needs to be. Joe Biden is not cognitively capable of being president. He's not, and Bernie goes on, CNN and is like, "Oh, I think Joe Biden could win against Trump."
Yeah.
Like, why are you saying that? This is a primary. Be honest. He can't. Yeah. He can't. Bernie, don't call him your friend. He's not your friend.
Yeah.
He lies constantly about you. He's not your friend. He can't win against Trump. He is senile. Like, dude. And I know that Bernie is just a nice guy. He's a stand-up guy, and he's not going to do that. But you need to rebrand yourself. This democratic socialist stuff is not polling well with the old people who, come from the Cold War era where they fucking, still have the Red Scare in them. Just run on the policies. Don't say revolution anymore. Don't say socialism anymore, because you already got us. You got the youth.
Yeah.
We're in. We're on board.
To branch out.
You got to get
and
old
another
people
one
to vote for you.
Too is he needs to quit disavowing his supporters. like when we bring the fight to the other campaign, because we're feeling like
we're
our candidate's
frustrated.
not. Yeah,
we're frustrated. That's the thing, is that I've been through this before. I've been through it multiple times. We see Bernie lose to Hillary, huge blow, and then we see Hillary lose to Trump, another huge blow, and now we're here and we're watching them do everything they can to take down Bernie Sanders again. So yeah, we're frustrated. Yeah, we're angry. But you know what? You can find that from any supporter. Warren supporters are toxic. Fucking Biden supporters are toxic. I've been in an internet debate with a Biden supporter the other day where he kept calling me a dumb fuck because I was supporting Bernie Sanders. And it's like, I didn't go on Twitter and like, Biden bros are so toxic.
Yeah.
Look at them. And when we get back into when we get into the Elizabeth Warren section, I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
But we can keep going on this because I'm going to save
this
it for them.
this actually plays into why I think the Democratic Party would rather lose than let Bernie win. Because let's talk about Joe going into a Joe v. Trump situation, right? Let's look, and I want to let's look at how Trump won, right?
Sure.
In the bare bones, he ran on so many different things, but I want to focus on a few ones. And this isn't so much about the immigration thing, because that was a big part of it. Probably 50% of his campaign was build the wall. But he also ran underneath all that an anti-Obama campaign.
Okay.
Objectively, your health care sucks.
Yeah, well,
Affordable Care Act is garbage.
He blamed everything.
Everything is on Obama. So, and there is an argument to be made that Biden isn't as unpopular as Hillary Clinton, but we're gonna forego that because I don't think this really applies to this. So when you're setting Biden up, you're basically pitting Obama 2.0 versus Donald Trump. And Donald Trump,
a less progressive Obama.
a less progressive Obama against Donald Trump, who already won the unpopular segment against you, right? That's not the right way to word that. But I'm trying to think.
Yeah, the popularity contest.
Yes. He's already beaten you, number one. We already know he's going to hit you. You've already given him Hillary's emails 2.0 in Hunter Biden and Burisma.
Yeah, the Hunter Biden thing, he's going to hammer that hard. He's going to hammer your trade history hard. And you know what?
You are the antithesis of. I mean, he's even though this is it. Even though we know that Donald Trump is lying about it and he doesn't actually care. This is the sad thing. You are literally teeing him up for a home run.
Yeah. And look at the ad that Trump released in the Super Bowl about his criminal justice reform, releasing that woman from prison. He's released a few nonviolent drug offenders from prison.
Joe Biden passed the crime bill.
Joe Biden passed the crime bill. Joe Biden helped write a crime bill. Joe Biden said that we should lock up club promoters for hosting raves. Like, Trump will attack you from the left on these issues, because when we really get down to it, I don't even know if Trump is worse than Biden. If we really get down to it,
Trump has minus the family separation that
who built the infrastructure that allowed that to happen? The Obama administration.
There's the argument, and I'll play devil's advocate for the sake of a good podcast. There's the argument that can be said, because I think Obama came out and he's like, well, we did set it up, but we didn't actually use it like that. We was never intended to be used like that, and blah, 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 and all that jazz. But is
that enough?
Is that enough? Exactly.
Is that enough?
Because Trump's going to hit him. He's going to say he already blamed coronavirus on Obama. Let's be real. Like, he's going to hammer you on everything because you're basically setting him up to win on everything he ran in 2016. Every single thing. That's just silly to me. And then on top of that, Joe Biden is not going to turn out. There's still going to be, let's say 30, what's a good estimate? 35% of the Democratic Party is progressives. It's probably less. Let's say 20% progressives and 5% progressive allies, and then 10% swing voters that really don't care. How about that? So you're not going to turn out those.
We don't have hard numbers for any of these things. So I don't know.
This is the other thing, and I shared a video on Facebook the other day. Crystal Ball was on the Hill with that one dude talking about how leftists shouldn't vote for Joe Biden.
We stand for a real queen.
This is
Crystal
one thing.
Ball.
This is one thing that Donald Trump did in the Republican Party, and they won't go against him because in 2016 he threatened to go independent. He said, "You come to me, or have a good day and you'll lose."
Yeah.
And guess what they did? They went to him.
Yeah.
So
Bernie's too sweet to do something like that.
And Bernie won't do that.
Which
is why we will lose this one, because the young people are going to become disenchanted. And in my prediction, I think the progressive part, this is an attempt to squash the progressive movement. And we set us up for 4 more years of Donald Trump because of it. Because the establishment would rather Donald Trump win than Bernie become president and fix a lot of systemic issues we have.
You know what? This might be the end of the Democrat Party, and
it will be.
I'm okay with it.
I hate to see it because like I bought into the hype when I registered as a Democrat in 2018. I was an independent prior. This is actually an unknown story. I'm going to share this too because this is actually kind of interesting. My very first voter registration was actually Republican. But the reason
you might say something similar to what, the story that I had.
The reason is because when I registered, I was kind of ignorant. I knew kind of what I stood for. Immigration was my big hot topic, being the family I come from. And I asked at the DMV when they asked me to register. And I was like, I don't know much about the parties themselves. I said, what are most people? And they said Republican. So I did. And then a year later, I was like, wait. I was like, this isn't right.
I have a different story. I was still politically engaged in high school a little bit. Definitely probably not as far left as I am now.
Same.
But I'm still old enough to remember Obama's first term.
Yeah.
And I remember being really disappointed in it. He had a supermajority for 2 years and didn't do anything with it.
Yep.
So when I turned 18 in 2011, so 2012 was the first time I was able to vote. I voted for Ron Paul because I was like, you know what? I think this guy actually has principles. I don't think that he's very much anti-establishment. And I think that while nowadays I'm disgusted with libertarians, at the time I was like, you know what? I'll take a principled libertarian who wants to end the war on drugs and wants to end our foreign wars over an establishment Democrat who's going to continue propagating these things. So I ended up voting for Ron Paul.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I took this reminds me of another funny bit. I took a Facebook quiz one time a long time ago, and it was like, where are you on the political spectrum? And it's like, and after I did all these, there's like 60 questions, and it's like, you are a socialist libertarian. And I was like, what? That is literally impossible.
Well, no, it's not. They're on different axes on the political scale. So you have the right and left axis, which is, far right would be like unregulated capitalism, whereas far left would be communism. And then there's authoritarian and libertarianism. Yeah. Now, libertarianism has been adopted by the right. So when you say you're a libertarian, people assume that you're a right winger. But you could be an anti-authoritarian, socialist. For example,
I think I would slightly disagree with the idea that the right has adopted it. I think they use it as a selling point, but I don't think they've really actually accepted it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that a lot of these social issues, because that's their whole big selling point, is that we are socially liberal but fiscally conservative.
Right.
Well, a lot of these social issues arise from capitalism, and so
Joe Biden supported the balanced budget amendment.
Neat.
Go ahead.
So the idea that somehow capitalism and the markets will somehow get rid of you can't really be pro unregulated capitalism and also socially liberal, because the social structures that hold down, oppressed communities are propped up by capitalism to begin with.
Yep.
So
I was talking to the owner of a small grocery store the other day, and they generally lean right. And there is a dollar chain that built one without, somehow or another, this person is on the city council in their town, and the zoning permit was never brought forward to the council somehow or another, and so they built this chain store that's killing them in business.
Yeah.
And we're having a conversation about it, and I tried to be as non-provocative to a point. I challenge people in their thoughts, to get them to switch over time, because that's the best way to do it. Like, break them down over time, in my opinion. I don't know, everybody has different strategies. Sure. But long story short, the last sentence they said in that conversation was, this is really what the unregulated market does, huh? And I was like, yeah, it kills you.
No, exactly.
They have buying power that you don't.
Yeah.
And then I went into detail how these companies keep business out, and then they're like, wow.
Yeah, well, you would, in an unregulated market, you would just concentrate the wealth on the powers that already exist.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, something like Walmart, or like when a Walmart opens up in a small town, you see a lot of small businesses struggle to compete with them because they have just bigger infrastructures to order products at a cheaper rate and can sell them at a cheaper rate.
They have purchasing disparity.
And so the consumer has no reason to go to you, like a little mom and pop shop, when they're going to be paying like 100% markup for the same things. They're like, I'm just going to go to Walmart. So yeah, unregulated capitalism actually kills small business.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and we've seen it. We've seen 50% rural grocery store closings in the last 20 years. Yeah. I mean, but that's something else entirely. So to wrap up that segment, I guess, because we were really talking about like the progressive movement going forward. That's kind of where we're at on it. I mean,
the Green Party, man.
Yeah,
that's the new home for progressives. I'm sorry, but the Democrat Party has left you behind. They don't care about you progressives.
Yeah, they 100%
and you know what? The Green Party has existed for since the 80s.
Yeah.
And they're still around. They're still doing things.
Yeah,
so you know what? And their platform has always been wildly progressive.
Yeah.
So you know what? If we need a legitimate third party for progressives to move to, then let's do it.
Somebody told me something the other day that there should be 4 parties, and they're like, there should be old Democrat, old Republican, new Democrat, new Republican.
Oh man, old Republican. And that's kind of the funny thing is that old Republican
and
would actually would be cool, like because you would have like a Dwight Eisenhower.
That's like Romney. I don't know. I think the old Republican would be more Romney-ish.
Really?
I mean, Eisenhower had. I mean, I've called him the last good Republican personally, but
yeah, well, and that's what I'm hoping for.
There's 2 things he did that I was super not cool with, and that's all the fucking. I'm sorry, language. All the evangelical shit. In God we that's true. In God we trust. All that jazz. Like that's all Eisenhower that did that. Mm-hmm. I'm not cool with that.
No, we should definitely move to more secularism.
Yeah.
But Teddy Roosevelt, it's a good Republican. He's an old Republican.
He was considered like a progressive though, no?
Yeah.
Like he was a progressive party member.
That was before the party switch. But we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, I know the roots of modern day conservatives. I know I brought this up on here. Started with Teddy Roosevelt. Like that's where the roots started. Mm-hmm. But anywho. Not from him, like in opposition to him. I had to clarify that last time too.
Yeah, I'm all for more parties.
Yeah.
I think we should have as many parties as possible.
I'm trying to think what it's called. Is it like mixed proportional representation or some shit like that? Yeah,
proportional voting is definitely something we should get to because Bernie is the second pick for a lot of people, or was coming up here. I mean, obviously he is now, being that there's only it's a 2-party race. Except for Tulsi Gabbard. What's her strategy? What's she doing?
Tulsi's whole thing. I've seen some people on the left, or leftists, I should say. I shouldn't say on the left anymore. That's a Republican talking point. Because I think we're at moderates versus progressives / leftists. Mm-hmm. I think that's where we're at right now, personally. But anyway, I don't know. I've seen some people, leftist shows saying like Tulsi deserves to stay in. Like she's showing that the establishment doesn't control. And I mean, she's not exactly taking away.
She's not showing that. She's showing that they very much do control and silence dissenting voices.
100%. So like, I don't know what her strategy is here because she's not really. Nobody's voting for her. At California? She got 0 votes. Is that if I'm not mistaken?
That'd be surprising. California's pretty big. I would expect. I mean, I know she got 0 delegates.
In one state, she got 0 votes.
0 votes. That's terrible. She got 1 delegate, I think, in American Samoa.
She did. She's at 2. Woo. I did see a funny joke that was like the greatest outcome would be it comes down to 2 delegates and Tulsi endorses Bernie.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome because she did endorse Bernie in 2016.
She did.
You know what? Tulsi's got some problematic views. But she has always kind of stood by Bernie.
She's one of those ones. This is one of those things. Like I've kind of been on the fence about Tulsi. I like her progressive views, but like this is kind of what I think you're getting at. Her views leading up to her switch to progressivism have always kind of bothered me.
She's had kind of a checkered past with gay rights, but I feel like she's an ally now.
To be fair, her father was the leader of a cult.
And she has kind of a nationalist slant to her. So she appeals to a lot of conservatives for that aspect. But, when Warren came out saying that, like, Bernie said that a woman can be president, Tulsi defended him and was like, hey, I also had a one-on-one meeting with Bernie, and he was nothing but supportive of me.
I mean, don't forget, in 2015, before Bernie started his campaign, he actually wanted Warren to run.
Yeah, he was trying to get her to run. And Is this the good segue into the Warren segment?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get into that.
Okay.
I mean, there's not much to say about Tulsi. I mean, we could talk about her merits as a candidate. I mean, at this point in time, like, I hate to write her off, but, I mean...
There's really no path to presidency for her.
Yeah. So I don't know what she's doing, because it's not even like, she's definitely not acting as a spoiler, which will lead us into Warren. She's not acting as a spoiler because she's not really pulling votes from Bernie, and I suck at Google, so I can't pull vote tallies for y'all. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what she's doing, because she's giving up her congressional seat, and I don't.
It's funny.
She hasn't declared anything else.
Yeah. I saw an Onion article that's like, due to a small unknown loophole, it turns out the winner of the Democratic primary is the person who got 0.7% of the vote.
It's like one of those random ones.
Yeah, it's like, according to.
Yeah, I did see that one. That one's great. They've been pumping out some hits lately.
Yeah,
like they were faltering for a little bit because they couldn't keep up with Donald Trump's
reality.
Insanity. But they've got some good ones coming out now. Even a few where I'm like, wait, what? And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, they got me.
But
they've got me.
All right, let's get into
so
Elizabeth Warren
so going into So we've had a couple primary contests from where we're at timeline wise from Super Tuesday. We had Super Tuesday 2, the Electric Boogaloo. And didn't turn out super great, but this actually starts with Super Tuesday. So Warren stayed in. All the moderates dropped out.
So we can go back to the very beginning where I said that I liked Warren.
Okay, we'll start there.
I will fully now admit that I was way wrong. I was so off with that. I was a fool. She was considered a progressive darling for a long time because of passing the Consumer Financial Protection Plan, and she's been kind of coasting on those good graces for a while. Her not endorsing Bernie in 2016, it gave that kind of a hit, in my opinion of her. But I was like, okay, cool, she's running, and you know what? Like, if she were to end up becoming the front runner, I'd be okay with it. Now, 100% take that back. She's dead to me. She's dead to me.
Yeah, and I know, and we're gonna get into my guy too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I do know. I know going back, I had said that I had some misgivings about Warren. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and I know, and there it is.
You're right. You're right. She is just the worst combination of naive and opportunist that I don't know. I don't know if she has any beliefs at all. I don't think she has any principles.
She's definitely an opportunist. I don't know if she's naive. I think she's actually kind of acting in a smart manner.
She is gullible to all hell, because you know what happened in 2016?
Yeah, that's fair.
What happened in 2016? She should have endorsed Bernie. He barely lost in Massachusetts, and if she had endorsed him, it could have changed the outcome of that election. And she chose not to. And there's a lot of rumors going around that she was offered VP by Hillary Clinton if she'd stayed out. And so what did she do? She stayed out, didn't endorse the candidate who she was on paper most aligned with.
Yep.
And what happened? Hillary picked fucking Tim Kaine. And then now we fast forward to now, where she was for a little bit surging, looked to be one of the front runners for a while.
She was actually ahead in California, which is progressive home.
And then what did she do? She hired Hillary Clinton campaign advisors and Kamala Harris campaign advisors. And then, I don't know if they're the ones who told her to do this, but leaked a story that Bernie Sanders, the most progressive candidate of our generation, was a secret sexist. And then what happened? She tanked, dude. And then she had that super staged reaction during the debate where she was like, I think you just called me a liar on national TV. No, you called him a liar.
Yeah.
You called him a liar. And Bernie, being the sweet, stand-up, awesome guy that he is, was like, you know what, we'll talk about this later. And he's just so fucking great.
Yeah,
Bernie's just such a sweet old man. And
he diffused that situation in the absolute best way that he could.
Good.
What are you supposed to do? It was really, to me, what that was, aside from being a media hit piece, that's where the real colors came out. I think for me, there was an interview she was doing prior to New Hampshire where a progressive leader of group there was brought up the whole thing that the first 3 states aren't really representative of the country, and should they change their dates to have a more representative state go first. And her response was, oh, I'm not going to talk bad about New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And it's like, but then Bernie goes on the same program later and is like, oh yeah, absolutely. So it's like,
yeah.
So
and it's like, and Bernie won all three of those.
Yeah.
So it wasn't in self-interest that he was saying.
yeah, he
that.
beat her in her home state. Let's start with that.
Well, so did Joe Biden, but
That's
whatever.
fair. Yeah, she's fourth.
But yeah, so she's been taking hits from that because, and then everyone was going on like calling her a snake, which you know what, like fair enough. I stayed out of it. I didn't
really get into that.
I didn't engage in that.
So.
But you know what, like you really did try to steal some of his supporters by manufacturing this story that he was a sexist, which whatever backfired on you. Then in the other debate, where they asked everyone if whoever gets the most votes should be president, and Bernie is to be the nominee, and Bernie was the only one who said that. Yeah, I think that democracy is important.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, including Warren, including the progressive darling Warden, she was like, no, it should be up to the superdelegates. It should be up to the process. It should be up to our corrupt process that is able to just take the election from the voters and give it to whoever they want.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how much more does she have to do to not be considered a progressive anymore?
Yeah.
Like
this is my theory on why she won't endorse Bernie this time around. Because we are in a have versus have not situation. Mm-hmm. And the reason that she doesn't is exactly for what you just said. Joe Biden beat her in her home state. That means the moderate wing will beat you in the next election. So endorsing Biden, which I know she wants to, because all the headlines that she keeps interviewing, Biden's a great guy, even though I destroyed him on TV.
Even though your entire political history has been disagreeing with Joe Biden.
Yeah. She never says any of them, never says anything, never brings up Bernie at all. So she knows, this is the thing. Elizabeth Warren in her next election cycle, if she doesn't retire, is going to get primaried and she's going to lose. Yeah. So by not endorsing Bernie and not endorsing Biden, but talking good about him, she is securing her political spot.
Yeah. You know what? And this goes back to her being naive, because I know that the Biden campaign probably promised her a position, but guess what? You're not going to get it.
Yeah.
The moderates don't give a fuck about you.
They don't.
They don't. You know what you are? You're someone at a fucking barbecue who one person's like, I like my steak rare, and someone else is like, I like my steaks well done, and she's like, well, you know what? I'll make a nice medium steak for both of you. Now no one's happy. Good job. You've alienated both of them, because they're not going to accept you. Anyone even slightly to the left, which Warren's history is somewhere in that sphere. Mm-hmm. They don't want you. They don't. So in this pseudo endorsement of Biden, you're just screwing yourself over. And then so we can talk about how she was attacking Bernie, saying that he had super PACs when he doesn't. Meanwhile, she had super PACs, and then once Pete and Klobuchar dropped out, she had the biggest super PAC donating to a candidate who was getting 3rd, 4th, 5th place in all these other contests. So why do you think that they were dumping all this money into a clearly losing campaign up until Super Tuesday? Mm-hmm. What do you think? And there's these people whose opinions I respect, who are still big Warren stans and who just want to ignore all of this. And they're like, oh no, she wanted to see what was going to happen in Super Tuesday. That's why she hung around. You knew she was going to do poorly on Super Tuesday. She stuck around solely for the reason to play spoiler to Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
This is okay. And people can be like, you're just being a conspiracy theory. You know what? No, I truly 100% believe that she was receiving a lot of money to stay in the race, to siphon a small fraction of Bernie's support.
Just enough. I mean, and there's the argument can be made. Okay, the 4 states, the delegate count, Joe would still be ahead.
Sure.
Whatever. The thing is she's still in it, and if you claim to stand for these things, then you tell your people to vote for the other guy.
She's very clearly doesn't stand for anything.
Because a lot of Warren, like if you go on the Reddit, and that's not a good source of info, but if you go on like the Warren subreddits and stuff, most of those people are saying Biden's their second pick.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? It's because Bernie people were mean to me. And it's like, what?
You know what? If you're like, I think that, people should have health care, but somebody was mean to me online, so I'm going to not vote for them. Yeah. Like, you can go fuck yourself. You are so selfish and self-centered that you think that just because someone was mean, someone cyberbullied you, that you think people should die from lack of health care. And Warren doesn't stand for anything. Doesn't stand for anything. She can campaign on Medicare for all she wants, but if you're going to throw your support behind a guy who said he would veto Medicare for all rather than the guy who built his campaign around it, you don't stand for anything. You don't stand for anything. Warren is dead to me. She's done. I don't care about her at all anymore. I hope she gets primaried. I hope she loses. I hope she disappears off the face of the earth. Same as Hillary Clinton. I hope they're done.
To me, like I summed it up, I think, in my thing, she's just another establishment candidate person to me. Like, by not supporting, she's in a bad spot for her political career, and that's why I said she's gonna get primaried and she's gonna lose.
Yeah. But
no question.
But no, even she was saying that a lot of the reason why she wasn't supporting. Oh, excuse me. We need to hit the record button one more time for our audio version, and then I'll get back to my angry rant against Warren.
Back.
All right, we're back. But yeah, you can't say that you stand for these things and you campaign for these things, and then don't endorse the guy who does, because then you don't. Then you really don't.
Yep. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish. Go ahead.
And you can see it in their coalitions and who supported them, because who supported Warren? It was upper middle class, wealthy, educated white liberals who, to them, politics is a game, because no matter who's in charge, whether it be Trump, whether it be Biden, you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be fine. You're not a disenfranchised minority. You're not poor. You're not one of the working poor. You probably have good health care. You're fine. And so politics is nothing more than aesthetics to you. It's just a game. It's whatever. Like, that's why their movements had such different coalitions behind them. Warren, and that was the thing, is that like there's this progressive podcaster. I forget what her name was, but she was on Twitter, and she had endorsed Bernie. And then a bunch of her fan base was getting on her, like, how could you do that? You're supposed to endorse Warren. And someone replied, it's because Bernie's campaign doesn't leave anyone behind. And that was the difference. Yeah. Is that Bernie's is the movement that includes everybody.
And this kind of goes back to, I'm gonna do a callback to what I was talking about too, where the party was in 2018 and talking about running on ideals and standing for something, right? So like, it makes you think like, oh, the bulk of the party believes this. That's why they did it. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to it, they don't. I mean, it's literally has become like I went into the party thinking something along these lines, in that, these guys aren't like the Republicans. They're not playing this team-based, I'm only going to vote R. No, it's the same.
They are.
And it's disappointing, and I shouldn't have been so naive myself.
Yeah.
But, you go in hoping, like, this is where the movement took root, and like I said, we won them those seats in 2018. Yeah. And this is another, and we could talk Warren being establishment, but I do want to bring up, another race. So we had talked a little bit before the cast started about Cenk Uygur. I know I'm saying that wrong.
It's Cenk Uygur.
Cenk Uygur. Okay. When Jank, there's a UFC fighter, a female, Joanna Jacek. It's one of those really hard ones. It's like Polish, but anyways, doesn't matter. Not what we're talking about.
No.
So there was a candidate in Texas, Jessica Cisneros, who running good progressive platform, primarying a moderate Democrat. That moderate Democrat, I don't know his name, took a lot of money from the Koch brothers super PAC, and he's a Democrat. Yeah. And that's kind of the telltale sign of why I don't think leftists should vote for the moderate, because they have shown they don't value our vote.
So here's the
and that's why, because you got literally who we campaigned against in 2016 now funding our party. Think about that for a minute and where that puts you.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Now we have the Republican Party, who's like, we should drone strike poor people in the Middle East. And you have the Democrat Party, who's like, we should do that, but we should worry about our carbon footprint when we do it. You have the Republican Party, who's like, yeah, we should give the richest people in this country more tax cuts. And then you have the Democrat Party, who's like, yeah, but maybe there should be more women CEOs. Like, at the end of the day, they're both tools of capital.
Yes.
They're both tools of the rich. They are both No, I'll definitely. Someone in the chat said Bernie 2020. Bernie 2020. If you had tuned in earlier in the show, we're both big Bernie supporters.
We're breaking down just to fill you in.
Just a little bit about Elizabeth Warren, because that was one of her positions too, was that the military should be more green.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Maybe the military shouldn't be so imperialistic. Maybe that's the real fucking issue. But yeah, Warren is just. It's like you ever seen American Psycho?
No.
So in that movie, Christian Bale plays like a psychopath.
Yeah.
Who is like a murderer,
Someone
and he's like a
psycho.
or like a psycho maybe, but he's like he's a wealthy like high-ranking business like manager, right? And but he murders people on the side, but he keeps this veneer of being like progressive. So when he's at like dinner with his other like rich friends, he spouts off all of these like, oh, maybe we should care more about poor disenfranchised people, and it's all just that's all it is a facade. It is like a nice coat of paint over this rotten core. That's all that Elizabeth Warren was too. Yeah, she's done. I'm done with her. She is. But you predicted that Elizabeth Warren sucked. And I said I liked her. You were right, but let's talk about someone else.
So
that in our very first stream, who is your number one guy?
I was big into Andrew Yang.
You're big into Andrew Yang, and what happened?
He endorsed Joe Biden.
He endorsed Joe Biden,
the guy who stands for nothing.
The guy who stands for nothing.
That was a big letdown too, and it really came to. I mean, it was such a big blow because. Okay, you didn't endorse either. So you go on CNN, they give you a bunch of money.
Yeah, and now he's like a political analyst.
And he was an analyst for CNN.
And now he's part of the machine.
And he launched Humanity First, his PAC to help promote UBI and UBI candidates all over. Thing was going crazy. and then you turn around as part of the media machine and you endorse Joe Biden. When you had said literally on live TV you would never endorse anybody that doesn't accept the UBI as a platform. And incidentally, before Mitt Romney did a couple days ago, Tulsi Gabbard actually signed on and said, "Hey, you know what? I will support UBI. I'll support UBI." And this is really funny because I think in our first or second podcast, maybe third, you had said something along the lines of like Gabbard Yang should go a third party ticket.
I had said that they would have the best chance as third party because both of them have sort of moderate appeal.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of like Republican circles who are like, I hate all of the Democrats except for Tulsi Gabbard. She's all right.
I've seen that too.
I hate all of the Democrats except for Andrew Yang.
There was a video circulating, I think, on Rebel HQ, and they were interviewing Republicans at a rally, and they're like, "Who would you vote for as a Democrat?" And most people said, "I will never vote Democrat," but a lot of people too said, "I like Gabbard."
Yeah, a lot of people like Gabbard,
which is also fends into my argument earlier about nominating the moderate as if you're going to pull these voters. You're not. It's such bad strategy. It's just terrible strategy.
Yeah,
and I can't do it. And that's why I vote blue no matter who, though. It's just such a dumb argument. It cheapens the leftist vote.
Yeah, but because they know that we don't have anywhere else.
Yeah,
that's the thing, is that they're using it, and the only way to show them that no, you can't just ignore us, is to not vote for them. So you know what? If it comes down to Joe Biden, I'll vote. I'll vote down ticket.
I'll vote down.
And I'll vote Green Party for president.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sorry,
I can't. I have said to friends of mine, and it's been a while. We haven't done a podcast in a minute, but I've said friends to mine. I said when it comes down to it, if it comes in close neck and neck to the convention and the delegates take Biden, that was originally my deal breaker. I was like, I'll never vote for Biden if the delegates take it from him.
Yeah.
But now,
it was vote blue no matter who.
But now that the more I look into it and dig in, the more I'm like, I'm really starting to think that if you're a progressive or a leftist or even marginally more liberal than the center, a vote for Joe Biden is more damaging to the progressive movement as a whole than it is for Donald Trump for 4 more years. And I know that's like a scary take, but when you really stop and think about it, Donald Trump has been the number one driver of the progressive movement next to Bernie. I mean, Bernie started it, but like it's a lot of people have been radicalized by Donald Trump's wild incompetence. But that's the thing is that, and I don't like to say it like that because like, bro. Biden loses to Trump. Donald Trump beats Biden on every single thing he beat Hillary Clinton with. And the only difference is that more Republicans will turn out this time around.
Yeah. Have you seen some of the numbers from the Republican primaries?
Yeah.
Primaries that don't matter. It's like Donald Trump's going to win, and yet the turnout for them is huge. And look at the states that Biden does well in. They're all the southern states that are going to be Republican anyway.
Yep.
So like he's got this big appeal in all these red states that are going to be red. So it doesn't really matter that he appeals to them. And Trump has a fervent fan base, a fan base that loves him, that will vote for him no matter what. Biden doesn't. Biden is winning states that he has no offices in, that he doesn't canvass in, that he doesn't care about. He's winning on name recognition alone. He's got nobody's going to I'm not going to take off work to go vote for Joe Biden.
Here's this is what Joe Biden does well. And I came up with this the other day, and I think it sums up Joe Biden's campaign perfectly, because this is what it is. It's ideological. It really is. And it sucks too to be in this situation. Bernie Sanders, not me, us. He was running for people.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Joe Biden is running on Make Obama Great Again.
Yeah.
His entire policy positions are literally reinstate what Obama did, which is also political strategy suicide, because what did I hammered this in earlier. I said, what did Trump win on aside from immigration? An anti-Obama campaign.
Yeah. And guess what? Like,
on paper,
leftists
it's
and
insanity.
progressives are also disillusioned with the Obama administration as a whole too. He didn't deliver on the hope and change that he was promising. So by running on Obama's legacy, you're not going to win over progressives. You're not going to win over young people. The thing is that people that support Biden, they're just old Democrat voters who are going to vote with anyone who has a D next to their name.
Yes.
You have them locked down. If Biden is the nominee, if Bernie is the nominee, if Tulsi by some miracle is the nominee, they're still going to vote for a Democrat. They're still going to vote for a Democrat. But
we'll come to that, because this is important, because there's a unique policy difference on that question. We'll get to that shortly.
Okay, but yeah, they're going to vote for whoever has a D next to their name.
Yes.
So they would vote for Bernie anyway. But you know what? Bernie supporters are not going to come out for Biden.
No.
Biden supporters will come out for Bernie.
It's Bernie's. It's Bernie's. I sent a letter, not a letter, but like an email to the campaign, and I said, I really hope Bernie reads this. I was like, I put it into MMA terms because I love that sport. It's the only real sport in the country. I said, Joe Biden right now is effectively the champion, and it is your job to go take that from him. And if you're not going to, you will not win.
Yeah.
And so...
And I said it earlier in the stream, if you can't beat the weakest candidate in Joe Biden, then guess what? I'm sorry, Bernie. I love you to death, but you don't deserve it.
Yeah,
you don't deserve it.
It's yours to win.
Melting brain.
You are the 49ers in quarter 3 of the Super Bowl who turned down the aggression and then threw the game. Like,
which one are you talking about? The Ravens 49ers?
No.
Years back,
49ers Chiefs.
Oh, and this most recent one. Yeah.
They went in 2010 and they were hammering it in, and then they went conservative. They said we're gonna keep our point lead, but we're not gonna score points.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Guess who beat you? Because Mahomes decides to bring it out like he does, and how objectively every team in the AFC. No, I'm not going to get into this because I am a Broncos fan, and the Chiefs do not deserve a Super Bowl. Put it on a shirt.
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
But yeah, dude, Bernie, you got it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why Bernie's campaign is failing. I mean, I could. It's that it's. But it's like old people are always uninformed. Whether it's in the general, whether it's in the primary. But Biden wants to cut your Social Security. Hammer that in.
I want to talk about what Bernie needs to do to win real quick, because I think this is a good important thing, because there's 2 things he needs to do immediately. CNN, they had a debate Sunday. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm going to answer this question for the chat real quick, and then I'm going to get into that. Officially, marijuana, or the weed as they say, should be legal in all 50 states. And people, I support Bernie in this. I say people who have been arrested need to be freed, and their records need to be expunged.
Yep.
And maybe even reparate them a little bit, because they've lost portions of their lives over a dumb law.
Guess what? Trump beats Biden on that issue as well. Trump beats Biden from the left as far as weed goes. Biden, as recently as fucking this year, was saying that weed is a gateway drug, and that he wouldn't legalize it.
He said it like 2 weeks ago.
Trump has talked about it. Trump has actually released nonviolent drug offenders. Trump is better than Biden on drugs.
See, I
Go
think,
fucking figure that the Democrat is more conservative on drugs than Trump.
I had a hyper conservative friend, and we used to argue about that. And he said, "Why is it liberals always shoot down everything Trump does?" And I said, "It's a team based thing. I mean, I recognize when Trump does something decent. I mean, you can't ignore it. It's very rare,
very few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's like an every week occurrence. I'm just saying." That, I mean, objectively, the crime bill that he signed, I mean, it's not what I would want, but it's better, I guess.
Yeah, it's marginally better.
I hate to give him credit.
Marginally better than Biden. He
still did it, just like you said, and he's going to hit Biden on it. Like we said earlier, guess who passed a crime bill in the 90s that put a bunch of people in prison?
Yeah,
Joe Biden.
Put a bunch of disproportionately minorities in prison. But yeah, Bernie Sanders had the most comprehensive crime bill or crime policy that he was going to run on. That it was going to legalize drugs. It was going to release nonviolent drug offenders. It was going to expunge their records. It was going to, he was going to legalize marijuana and help, minority communities to open up legal marijuana businesses. Yeah. Andrew Yang actually had probably the best drug policy.
That's
of
another
legalizing
one,
all drugs
too, because the state of Ohio passed a law that said 4 corporations get to control the weed market. I think it's Ohio.
Yeah, bullshit.
Which is dumb. But I mean, yeah, Bernie's got it right. Yang had a good one. I mean, not anymore.
Yang wanted to legalize all drugs. Again, this is not Bernie being a radical. These ideas have been done, have been tried.
Other countries have done it.
What happened when Portugal legalized all drugs? Overdoses dropped, STDs dropped, overall drug use dropped.
Yeah,
prisons were decongested,
and they went into mandatory treatment programs.
Yeah,
like one of the biggest issues in the United States is if you are like a hardcore drug user, meth, whatever, there's no standardized treatment for you. Like any place you go, place to place, who offers quote treatment, it's different, and that's part of the problem too. Is we don't have treatment standards.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely a lot of like, rehab centers that are very like religious.
Yeah.
There's all these like different ways that we do this instead of listening to actual like psychologists who have specialized in like drug rehabilitation to draft sort of standards for this kind of thing.
Yeah. But anyways.
All right. So
about
to move on to?
So I was going to say the 2 things that I think Bernie needs to do this week. He should have done it today, but he didn't. There's 2 things he needs to do if he wants to win, because he brought up something awesome in the debate, and it was the best thing I've heard him say in a long time, because Joe Biden opened up his thing with he signed on to Warren's bankruptcy plan to fix the problem he created.
Yeah.
And he goes, Bernie, why don't you come to my side? And Bernie replied, why don't you come to my side? So this is what Bernie needs to do. Number 1, and this is another thing. This is why the media is retarded. Because
let's not use
that
word as a pejorative.
Sorry.
Come on, we're supposed to be progressive.
Sorry, I grew up in the Midwest. Okay, I'll take it back. I won't use that word. This is why the media is autistic. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, we started out as semi-comedic.
Still gotta try to break away from that.
Never. No. So this is why the media is stupid, right? Okay. They asked in the debate, and I actually missed this question live because I was having problems airdropping it to my TV because I don't have cable, so I have to stream it. Mm-hmm. They asked Joe Biden, would he commit to a woman VP? And he's said, it's absolutely going to be a woman. And that headline has been everywhere. Yeah. Every major news article, even some of the independents are running that. Mm-hmm. Well, then they'd go to Bernie, and he said, we're leaning that way, but it has to be a progressive woman.
Okay.
Effectively same answer, but nobody's putting that out. No. So what Bernie needs to do, and he should have done it last week, honestly, because I actually had this conversation with somebody else, is he needs to pick a VP, and it needs to be a woman, preferably of color, and she needs to be progressive. Even I was at a certain point, I was even willing to concede and take Warren just to build the coalition.
She's Native American, so.
But at this point, like. I know you. What did you say earlier?
I said Nina Turner.
Nina Turner. She's good.
Nina Turner.
I like her a lot. Did you see that?
She's been working so hard for Bernie.
I'm going to change the. I'm not going to change the subject, but I'm going to ask. Did you see the clip? I think it was CNN, maybe MSNBC, where they were talking about Martin Luther King's words.
Oh, and some liberal white woman was like,
Yeah, you don't get to speak to Martin Luther King's words. Like, it's like, what?
Ooh, you got smacked in person for some goofy shit like that. Like, no, Nina Turner, I like a lot because she has been just the most stalwart Bernie supporter in these recent years. She's been, and she definitely has the appeal of like a working class person. She's not polished. She's not like this, Republican spouting like, platitudes, or not Republican. She's not like a politician just going like, oh, we need to turn the page. We need a new blah, blah, like all of the Pete Buttigieg Obama-isms. No, she actually talks like a real person, and I like that a lot. And I like that she's been a Bernie supporter for years now and has been campaigning really hard for him. I think that she deserves it the most. She deserves it the most.
See, I thought she would be good. I like her. A lot of people have thrown Stacey Abrams out. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I like Stacey Abrams, but I'm not sure where I'm at on that. I kind of thought it's not Ilhan Omar was not born here, so she can't be vice president. If I'm
Ilhan Omar?
Is that correct? What did I say?
Ilhan Omar?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oman is a country, isn't it? Ilhan Omar. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay. What about her?
I don't believe she was born here.
I believe she's Somali. Right?
Yeah, Somalian. Because she's Minnesota, right? A huge Somali community in Minnesota. But I thought Rashida Tlaib might not be a bad pick either.
It might not be a bad pick.
Not sure.
But I think picking anyone from the squad
is a death sentence.
It would sort of be a hit to any sort of crossover appeal.
I thought about that too.
Bernie had had.
I also thought
Tulsi Gabbard might be a good pick.
Tulsi's not bad. Bernie does win 13 out of 16 independent polls, so that's not a bad pick to pull more swing voters.
Yeah.
I also, prior to the news from the weekend, I also thought Andrew Gillum would be a good pick. But then did you see?
I didn't see. No.
They caught him. They didn't catch him. They found him passed out in a hotel room. Somebody had called the ambulances because he was in the hotel room with his buddy, but his buddy was ODing. Yeah. And it was rough. They had a party.
I heard that it was like a male prostitute. Whatever.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I hadn't heard that, but they had a party. I mean, it shouldn't be disqualifying because I know here in our home we had a candidate who very well should have won his election, but he didn't, and it was because he got busted at a strip club in the 90s with there was meth in the back, but he was just there, like it was in a different room. So, but they hammered that in, and he lost.
I think meth is one that I wouldn't trust the president with.
Yeah, so
if he does a little coke, it's like
I was into that one too because let's face it, Florida's a big state for Bernie and he needs to win it. And that would have been a good one because Andrew had huge support there, but now after that I'm kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, this sort of like personal life puritanism, because it's like someone's sexual proclivities shouldn't really detract from voters.
What if you're a touchy-feely man?
Well, that's the thing. If everyone's consensual, then it's fine. If you're Biden,
what if you like hair sniffing?
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at.
Biden that's what I'm saying. If you're a Biden who's like a creep, who like molests people. I don't know if you remember one of our guests, Courtney. Yeah. She had posted something recently about how, because her expertise is like with sexual abuse and things like that. She was posting that Biden's public personas and the things that he does when the cameras are on and how brazen he is with touching little kids are all very strong indicators that he that what does he do when the cameras aren't on him if he's already being this brazen about it. I mean,
don't expect Trump not to swing at him for that either, even though he's done the same thing, but that's Trump's MO. Like, he's gonna say one thing even though he doesn't stand for it and stands for the other thing. And the thing, the thing, look up the thing.
Yeah, no, he's... well, the thing is that it's not a disqualifier for Trump.
No.
His supporters don't really care. But it would be a disqualifier for a Democrat.
Yep. Another reason why nominating Joe is a silly idea.
Joe has 8 accusations of sexual assault.
Yep.
Bernie's got 0, baby.
Bernie 2020.
Bernie is the man, dude. That's...
So yeah, the VP pick, big one, number one.
Honestly, at this point, with where it's at, Hail Mary, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Reach out to Warren. Like
anybody.
I hate, like, we just went on this big thing about how she's dead to me and I hate her.
I said right I started, I said I would concede Warren because I understand the political implications of that.
Yeah.
And Warren should be at Bernie's camp asking because what I said earlier, what's going to happen? She's going to get primaried. Her spot's done. Progressives kept her spot. Like when her term comes up in 22, like that, like progressives don't forget.
Yeah, they're not going to forget you.
Like who did we wrote somebody off? Who was it? Oh, Mayor Pete, because fake progressivism doesn't fly with progressives.
Yeah.
And that's what sunk his campaign. He went moderate and he lost his support. I mean, effectively.
Yep.
When you really break it down.
And
So no, but I agree. Bernie, Hail Mary.
Hail Mary.
Like,
go
get a pick. Get anybody.
You know,
Stacey Abrams, great pick.
But that
Nina
goes
Turner,
back to
great pick. Elizabeth Warren, okay pick, but I'm okay with it.
Maybe a good pick, strategically.
He needs a strategic pick, is what I'm saying. Like he's got to be smart about this.
But man, because that's the thing is that Warren, I know that she's probably vying for a cabinet position on Biden. She probably even got promised one. Guess what? It's not gonna happen, you dummy.
No.
You idiot. They didn't. Hillary didn't do it. Biden sure as hell ain't gonna do it. He's picking Klobuchar. I'm sorry.
Warren, you fool, you fell for it. Double cross lightning attack. Little JoJo reference there. It's silly. It's silly to go that way.
Oh, okay. To answer someone in the chat who was like, "You can't say someone's a man for not having any sexual assault charges."
It's sad. It's sad that that's the bar. This is the bar we have to go by.
The bar is so low.
This is what's so wrong.
Yeah, is that well, he's going up against somebody who does have sexual assault charges. That's
if
the
you
fucking
missed the first hour, we talked exclusively about what the party claimed to stand for in 2018 versus where we're at right now. And it's just a complete 180, and the future as a progressive is in jeopardy right now. And I don't think people are really understanding it.
Yeah,
at least progressives
and back
anyway.
To that point, it's because look who else was in the running. Bloomberg, who had 64 sexual harassment charges, and now Biden, the front runner, who's got 8. So I don't think we can press this point enough that Bernie is he's the only normal human being.
Yeah,
he's the only real person.
Yeah,
and like. A final point on Biden. Biden is not there. He's not. And you say it's mean to go after him for it, you know, and you know what? It's sad. Alzheimer's is sad. Being senile is sad. Losing your mind is sad and scary. I've witnessed it within my own family to the point that I've been cursed out by family members for taking care of them in the hospital because they didn't know who I was. And it's heartbreaking and it's sad. But guess what? You shouldn't be president if you are losing your mind. And you know what? Even if he was completely cognizant, when he is of clear mind, he's bad. So not only is he bad at his core, but he is bad and also losing his grasp on things.
Yep.
So this is the worst person to put up. And it's so sad that in what should be a democracy, even though there's always some fucking Republican nerd who's going to go like, oh, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. But well, you know, guess what? Those things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Republic just means that we're not a monarchy. So I'm tired of that fucking argument.
The bar for being a republic is astronomically low. All you need is a form of representative wing of your government to make you a republic. Like, come on.
But in a democracy, it's a fucking shame that Biden will be who we consider to be the best among us to lead us. No, I'm not saying that Bernie is. I'm not saying he's the smartest man in the world and that he should, but the disparity there is so clear. He is so much better. He is so much more equipped.
Yeah.
Like it's disgusting that it's going to come down between two senile perverts who fucking don't know what's going on. That's what the election's going to come down to if it's Biden and Trump. You have two fucking potential rapists who are both showing signs of dementia. That's what it's going to come down to. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Out of 347 million people.
Yeah, those are who you picked. You know,
right now, this is another. Oops, shit! Oh, this thing's going crazy over here. Right now, the Democratic Party is literally, and I'm going to answer that question in just a second. Right now, the Democratic Party is literally the Seahawks versus the Patriots, and they're gonna run it instead of throwing it and winning the game.
Yeah.
And we're gonna lose because, again, I've said it at least 10 times. They care more about beating Bernie than they care about beating Donald Trump.
Yeah. No, that's just the facts.
Yeah.
They do. Because
they have to.
Because
it's the only
Trump
way
doesn't fundamentally change anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't. And Bernie would, and Biden would be roughly the same as Trump.
Biden would make Obama great again. That's his whole shtick.
Yeah.
What is his thing? Strengthen the Affordable Care Act. Rejoin the Paris Accords.
Another point that I would like to bring up. We're about to take one more quick break.
Yeah. Shortly.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and do it real
just
quick.
Do it right now so we can get into it.
Boom. Boom.
This is such a inefficient system.
I know.
Actually, bear with us, guys. We're recording us for the podcast.
In a way, I do kind of like this because it does it puts it directly onto the platform.
But I wish they had more than a half hour limit on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was listening to another podcast. It's called Worst Year Ever, where they were talking about how some of them on there, like one of them is a hardcore actual leftist. One of them is, the other two were like Warren supporters, so they were kind of like middling.
Mm-hmm.
But they were both saying like, maybe like a Biden presidency wouldn't be so bad. Like I feel like Biden is so weak that maybe we could get progressive policies passed just by like harassing him. Mm-hmm. So I was like, so we just bully him into doing what we want.
No, that's the thing, though. I'm gonna let you finish, but
they suggest one of them suggested maybe he's so gone that we could just convince him that he was Bernie Sanders the whole time. Let's just start calling him Bernie.
Oh my God, have you ever seen the movie? Oh my God, I'm losing it too. Have you ever seen the show Heroes?
I have not. No.
Oh, okay. So you know the premise of Heroes, right?
I don't know.
Okay, so it was a show that came out in like 08, 7, 6, something like that. Yeah. And it's basically a comic book television show. A bunch of people get powers, and the big bad guy who of the first two seasons, like it culminates in his ultimate defeat, I guess, is there's one guy who has like mental powers, right? Uh-huh. And he ends up locking him inside his own mind and convincing him he's somebody else. I was like, that's their game plan here.
Yeah, so we're just if Biden wins the nomination, he will from then on be referred to as Bernie. And we'll just try to convince him that these were his ideas all along.
We'll just keep calling him Senator.
We'll just keep calling him Bernie.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Bernie, do you remember you were going to pass Medicare for all? He'd be like, oh, yeah.
But that goes back to what I was saying before. Let's pretend Biden wins. Does the Democratic Party accept the same progressive policies? Does Nancy Pelosi bring it to the floor?
So here is another scenario that I've seen floated around is that when it goes to convention, they won't pick either one, Biden or Bernie. And
interesting.
Yeah, and just completely go with someone who didn't even run and just be like,
yeah, because we
recognize that Biden is a bad candidate.
Yeah. All of his votes now go to so and so.
Yeah, so like they're just gonna fucking just swoop the rug out from under us and just go with somebody who didn't even run.
I don't see that happening.
Just give it to Hillary Clinton.
Somebody said I seen this one too, that Biden picks Hillary as his running mate.
Ooh, do it now and announce it today, please.
Then on the off chance they somehow manage to beat Donald, he dies from another aneurysm and she's president now. It's like the ultimate game plan.
That would be just a death sentence for his campaign.
Yeah,
I hope he does it.
It's already
I
not.
hope he does it, please.
Yeah,
please pick her because she is so just toxic and just unlikable that I think that would ultimately help Bernie. I think all of the negative press that she's running against Bernie has been ultimately to his advantage.
Yeah, and to answer that question there, how can somebody commit the same crime 64 times, have a shitload of money?
Yeah,
that's the Bloomberg.
Mike Bloomberg. Yeah. Committing sexual getting accused of sexual harassment 64 times. Because he's rich.
A shitload of money.
We have
inconceivable amount of money.
We have a justice system that when you have enough money, you kind of do whatever you want. And if you're poor, even if you're innocent, your whole life could be ruined.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in a system where when you're rich, like the same things don't apply to you. I mean, the best case, I think, I was actually going to pick something along the lines of like most cases won't even be brought against you. You can settle them before they happen. Mm-hmm. But affluenza.
Why does he have so many NDAs?
Affluenza kid. I mean,
number one. Kid. How many celebrities? Even like O.J. Simpson. Murdered somebody. Oh God, what's her name? Caitlyn Jenner killed somebody.
Oh yeah.
nothing happened.
Yeah, shitload of money. That's the answer to that.
Just having enough money. If you kill someone, you can just post bail, be out, and then hire the best legal team possible and win your case. But if you're innocent and you get taken to jail for some nonsense, you could spend a couple weeks in there before your trial, and even if the case gets dismissed, guess what? You lost your job now.
Yeah,
they're not going to understand. If you missed rent, you might come home to an eviction notice on your door. So your whole life could be ruined. If you did nothing wrong, your life could be ruined.
Even the most common one, you get arrested on a Friday, get drunk at a bar, and something happens. You get arrested on Friday, and you're stuck in jail till Monday.
Yeah.
Wait until they get you out. Yeah, I mean,
I actually have a funny story. It might take a minute. I don't know if we should get into it. But,
we got a little bit of time.
Okay, so I was visiting my parents. I was driving here from Denver, and I got pulled over in some county, some like middle of nowhere county, right?
Yeah.
And they pulled me over, said I was lingering in the left lane for too long. I was like, okay, here's all my stuff. And my insurance, I go through Progressive. I have it on my phone. And they're like, oh, we're not going to take that. And I was like, well, no, I have it. It's right here. I can pull it up for you. Have my policy number and everything. And he was like, you know what? Go home and fax it to our department. So I was like, okay. I went home, faxed it over to the police department, and figured it was done. We're done for. A couple weeks later, I get a letter in the mail saying that I have a warrant to appear in court for not having insurance. So I faxed it like 10 more times to him. I was like, dude, I have insurance. Here it is. Yeah. And I didn't get anything else in the mail after that. And I was like, okay, cool. Maybe we're done. Like a year and a half later, I'm going to pick up this girl that I'd met on Tinder. She lives on the military base. And she gets me on. I pick her up. Yeah. We're about to leave, go to a bar. And I get pulled over on base. I guess the speed limits are like super slow there. I was assuming it was 35 like everywhere else.
Yeah, it's like
it turns out it's like 20. It's like 25. So I get pulled over there, and I give him all my stuff, show him my policy, everything. He's running my stuff for like almost an hour, dude. And that girl's getting upset. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what's going on.
It's a mood killer.
We're just sitting in there waiting for this cop to run my stuff, and then he comes up and he's like, hey, are you aware that there's a warrant out for your arrest? And I was like, I'm not aware of that, no. And he was like, yeah, it's in, I think it's Trego County.
Oh, damn.
And I'm like, I don't know where that is, and I don't know why I would have a warrant there. And then as he was explaining it to me, it slowly clicked because it had been a year and a half. I was like, oh, my God. And he was like, you know what? Because it's a military base, if we arrested you, we'd have to transfer you. Yeah. And it's a Friday. I don't want to do all that. So go ahead and get this taken care of. But if you had gotten pulled over off base by like a civilian police officer, then he would have had to take you to jail.
Yeah.
And I would have spent the weekend in jail because it was Friday. I wouldn't have been released until Monday.
And longer because they would have probably tried to transfer you.
Yeah, would have tried to transfer me out to Trego. And that's like a 2 or 3 or 4 hour drive from where I was living. So I was like, I can't like go to court 4 hours there and back. And so like I had to call the court there, and they were like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to show up. And I was like, well, what if I faxed you and showed you that I had insurance at the time that I was pulled over? And they're like, well, can you do that? I was like, yes, I will do that right now. And I sent it to them, and they dismissed it. But I very easily could have spent the weekend in jail if I didn't, or longer, if I didn't know about that. And if I did, how would I prove that I had insurance? I wouldn't have access to the internet from jail.
Right.
So like, it would have really screwed up my life for something that I didn't do.
Exactly.
So yeah, we have a justice system that's fundamentally broken.
It's flawed. Hardcore. Zero tolerance, man. They really. That's one of the biggest detriments too. Is just anything zero tolerance just sets you up for failure. Yeah. I got a ticket once for being in a park past midnight. Zero tolerance. I had to pay $95.
Why were you in a park past midnight?
I was young. We were hanging out. We're doing what kids do.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. Probably could have fought it and beat it. Didn't know what no contest meant. So.
Yeah. Oh man. So I got arrested on Halloween when I was 18.
Oh God.
Originally for being drunk in public, but then I got a resisting arrest charge. And originally the public defender that I got was like, oh dude, we're gonna try to get you into like this youth program, and you're not gonna have to go to jail or anything, you'll be fine. And then I had to go back like a couple like months later for my court appearance, and I got a different public defender who literally said, "Just plead no contest. Don't make my job harder than it needs to be."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, no, all right, fine."
Yeah, that's what they do though. I mean, I had a friend who got arrested for like getting into a fight or something like that, and they took the PD, and even his PD's like, look, he's like, I'm going to tell you to plead guilty. He's like, if you really want to defend yourself, you need to get a real lawyer.
Yeah,
like they basically told him flat out.
They'll throw the book at you if you actually take it to court.
Yeah.
Like no contest, you'll get like the lightest sentence possible. But if you
potentially, unless you live in an area with mandatory sentencing guidelines, that's where you get screwed.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that exists too. A lot of people forget about that. So, man, you know, you have to have a really good reason for breaking the sentencing guidelines, and guess how many reasons are good?
Yeah.
Not a lot of them.
I had a buddy in California who had been arrested twice for weed, and they have the 3-strike rule there. I was like, dude, leave the state.
Yeah.
I wouldn't risk it. You go to jail forever, man. Like 3 strikes is the dumbest.
It is one of the dumbest laws that exist.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and with that,
let's end
this
it
is
on
this
that
is a long
one.
one.
Yeah, we
had
covered a lot. This
yeah.
is So you know, this one we're gonna get this thing uploaded as soon as we can to the podcast. I'm gonna try to do it right now because I think this one is worth sharing and sending to people because I really think progressives are underestimating where we're at right now.
We're
because
feeling defeated. But
even if we're defeated, like what this election means to the movement as a whole.
It's make or break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have no choices.
And that's the thing.
I never said the second thing Bernie needs to do.
Oh, yeah.
He's not going to. Or his campaign needs to do it. If he doesn't want to, let his campaign manager issue the statement.
Or we just need to go out there and cyberbully some seniors, baby.
He needs to literally say, you come to me or I'm out. Sorry. Like Donald Trump did it with the Republican Party. We can do it with the Democratic Party.
He won't do it.
He's not.
He won't do it. That's the thing is that we talked earlier about harm reduction.
Yeah.
Bernie is too nice of a guy.
Yeah. This is why I think
the
Democrats
lives we would lose
are the worst politicians on the planet because they lack the foresight to look past November.
They lose all the goddamn always.
Yeah.
I don't know. We should do an episode on coronavirus next time.
Yeah, we will do that because
it's what's going on.
It's the big one. And I know the backdrop of Corona is huge.
Yeah,
and we'll
actually,
definitely get to
we
that.
should maybe talk about predictions for tomorrow because tomorrow's when Florida's voting.
Florida's voting. I remain cautiously optimistic. I think the debates. It turned a lot of people off. I think we look at I think my big prediction. We should write this down. This will be fun. I'm a gambling man. Okay. Let's write this down.
What states are all voting tomorrow?
Arizona, Florida.
Okay. I think Arizona. Bernie's got just this huge influx of Latino support.
Illinois.
If Arizona turns out like Nevada, then I think that he might have a good chance with that. Illinois,
745 to 898. That's the current delegate count.
That's not bad.
According to Google.
That's not bad. Bernie's still in this.
Yeah, this contest is far from over.
Don't give up.
50% of the delegates haven't even voted yet.
What do you think?
Sorry, I'm going to throw this out. Arizona, Florida, Illinois, and Ohio.
Okay. Good chance in Ohio.
Aside from people voting for candidates that aren't even in the damn race anymore, Arizona, I think, goes to Bernie.
I would hope so. I've seen polls that I think Biden is leading in all of them in the most recent polls.
A lot of the polls suggest that.
But if there's turnout in Arizona like there was in Nevada, which I'm hoping for,
yeah,
he's got a good chance.
Bernie wasn't projected to win Nevada, and he schooled them.
He smashed
the biggest detriment to Bernie right now, going into tomorrow, is Florida. He's like a 60 to 30% support rate in Florida.
There's a lot of old folks.
I think it narrows down to 60-40. I think that's what happens after the debate. I don't think enough people will have seen it because of the media
to flip Florida
to flip it, but I think 60-40 is what happens there, and I think he gets most of his delegates from Arizona, Illinois, and Ohio.
I think he's got a good shot in Ohio. It's kind of a blue collar.
I guess the big issue in Illinois is that's Obama's home state.
Yeah, so I don't know. Illinois is up in the air. I think there's enough progressives in Illinois to maybe give him a shot.
Yeah, there is
I hope he wins Arizona. But Florida. So something I've been hearing about, given that the coronavirus is most lethal to old people, do you think they're still going to turn up in the polls?
The ones that are paying attention, yeah. There will be a slight reduction, maybe 5%.
See, the problem is,
I don't think that many will not show up.
That young people are the ones taking this more seriously.
Yeah.
Even though it is most lethal to old people.
40 to 40, the
so
18 to 40 demographic. Yeah.
I'm actually worried that they're the ones who are not going to be wanting to go to crowded places.
I've seen posts online from different places that in early voting that outlook appears to be about half 50-50. So I remain optimistic.
Okay.
I think this comes. I think we see a better turnout for Bernie than what we have over the last two contests.
But you also have people again losing Bernie's movement, losing steam, losing momentum. If you're going to bet on the optimistic side, I think the money would be that he might lose in all four.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
But here's hoping he doesn't.
I think Arizona and Ohio to me are the top two likely for him to take. Ohio's iffy.
Yeah.
I don't know much. I know they're all primaries. I don't think there are any caucuses. And I don't know if they're open or not, meaning independents can vote at the same time. So I don't know much about those. I have to check that one out.
Some of the chat said that they want to intentionally get coronavirus so they get time off work. That's the thing, is that they don't have to pay you for it.
Yeah.
You could take time off work. You can just lie.
The sick thing about the relief bill is it left, we talked about it a little bit earlier, it left so many loopholes to prevent people from getting paid.
Yeah, and it was something like...
Just as an FYI, I'm going to throw this...
Only companies that have
over 500 workers or something like that.
That employ 500 or less are the only ones that actually have to comply to it. So the companies that could afford it the most don't have to comply, which is just another fucking toss-up to corporations. Dude... Mitt Romney is attacking Democrats from the left with proposing like a UBI. It's insane.
Let's be real. 1.5 trillion. And I do want to end with two thing about Joe Biden keeps puppeting the cost of Medicare for all as a problem. And there's a very easy solution to that. And I'll get to that in a minute. But I lost my train of thought because I went to another thing.
Okay, we can talk about
goddamn ADHD. What was I going at?
Something about the cost of Medicare for all.
Embarrassing. No, right before that.
Something about Joe Biden talking about
Mitt
the cost
Romney.
of Mitt Romney.
Oh yeah, well, okay, $1.5 trillion, right? They came up with this out of nowhere, right? Effectively. Now you could say
for the Fed.
You could say this is federal 0% loans. I mean, the reality is they just came up with it, and it is spendable money.
Yeah.
So if you take that, that's $4,673 for every single American.
Yeah.
Like they could have injected that directly into the economy and they didn't.
Yeah.
So
the other money's made up, guys.
Yeah. So then, exactly. A dollar is only a dollar because the U.S. government says it's a dollar, and the real threat to the dollar is when the world stops trading in it. That's so. The last little bit I think we get in before we try to get this thing cut up and uploaded. Biden used the Medicare for all cost during the debate. He said, "I wouldn't." He basically, in a roundabout way, said, I won't support it because it costs too much. Bernie won't tell you. He said, word for word, Bernie won't tell you how much it costs, blah, 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 right-wing talking point.
There's no way of knowing, definitively. However, they have made projections, and almost every single study says that it actually saves money.
Yeah, over time it saves money, and over time it creates jobs because, people don't die. So the average, and I could be way off on this, but this is how I read it. The average cost that I see for Medicare for all is $35 trillion over 10 years. That's about the average. Mm-hmm. Some say 45. I've seen 70. I've seen 25. So we'll say 35. And the reason I'm going to use this number is because in 2017, the United States, in direct spending and subsidizations and tax breaks, spent $3.5 trillion in 1 year on healthcare, and that's 2017. Now it's projected to go up 9% by 2020. I'll let you do the math on that. So just by going by 2017 numbers, times that by 10, that's $35 trillion. We are already paying for it. The only difference is you are subsidizing insurance companies to inflate their stocks with your premiums.
You are paying your taxes are already going. you're just paying a private tax.
You're paying,
and it's a lot higher than what your tax for Medicare for All would be.
You're paying a premium to the company who's also getting subsidies off of your premiums, off of your tax dollars, So you're paying them twice to render you less care.
And when you pay Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever other insurance company you have, that money doesn't go to doctors. It's not like a direct line. It goes to them. It goes to them to pay their CEOs and to pay their employees and to pay for advertisements is a huge cost.
Yeah.
So
which they get to write off advertisement costs on their tax bill.
Yeah. So you are just paying. That's why you are effectively paying more for healthcare currently than you would under single payer. Mm-hmm. And next episode we'll talk about coronavirus. I think we should definitely
break that one down.
Dive into Medicare for All, how that would have stemmed this crisis, and how it's not a very radical position at all. How cost is not important.
Yeah, it isn't. But all right, it is getting a little late, and unfortunately, because I don't get to take sick time off, I have to work tomorrow in the midst of a pandemic.
I also do. Here's hoping that we get a couple weeks off.
There's 11 cases in the state so far, and we'll talk about it on the next one because it is a good topic. There's a lot of good info,
and it'll definitely segue neatly into healthcare.
Absolutely.
So, last message. Please continue supporting Bernie Sanders. Please vote for Bernie Sanders. But also, if Joe Biden wins, start calling him Bernie Sanders and try to convince him that that's who he's been all along.
And also note that they don't think your vote matters, and don't feel bad not voting for him if you don't want to vote. We are the party of vote your conscience, and then when it comes down to it, we either are or we aren't.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Excellent. See you later. Also follow us.
Follow us and
follow us, please.
Download it. Anchor, Apple Podcasts, everywhere.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're out there, baby.
Everywhere. Thank you. Good night.